Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Tuesday evening. It has begun, ladies and gentlemen, the 2024 version of your boys' spring tour all across the state of Georgia. Stop number one today, this afternoon, Jonesboro High School. It was a good time, man. The pads weren't popping yet. I think we will get some pads popping tomorrow, but it was mat drill time. It often coincides with spring practice. Hey, get you nice and conditioned. Make sure you're nice and in ready area, as close as we can get you in football shape before we put the pads on. But got a chance to see Jonesboro High School today. They were, at one point, a top 10 ranked team in the 6A last year here in the state of Georgia, and finished, I think it was somewhere in that like quarterfinal round in 6A playoffs this past year. So a really good roster with a handful of Power 5 offer caliber football players. I left with impressions of two players I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But when I go out on the trail and I find coaching staffs and I find things I want to talk about that make me passionate about the game of football, I oftentimes bring them to you. So bear with me the next 3 weeks when we talk about this. Your boy might get really nerdy and maybe even sentimental about the game of football. It's why I do what I do during this time of the year. But anyways, every time as a football player growing up, I heard that we were in the gym. Like, I always was like, ooh, boy, we got it easy today. Okay, worst thing they can do to me is like make me do an outrageous amount of lunges. However, Jonesboro High School today, and I told their coach this, Jonesboro High School today was, I ain't gonna say trying to kill them boys, but Jonesboro High School made sure that was the suck today during those mat drills, okay? They specifically, oftentimes during these indoor mat drill circuits, you have like two tough drills, an easy one, a tough drill, an easy one. This was like 4 stations in a row of pure suck and hell, and then 2 like weight rooms that we didn't get to see. I didn't even go in them. They had the doors locked. You know, I would imagine maybe not, the AC was even probably turned off in them joints. It was nice and tough for those young men today. They ran a tight ship, and they operate like that, and they will win football games like that this fall out there at Jonesboro High School. 2 names I want to bring to you that were available and practicing today. Another one that we might mention here in a second that's got some Georgia interest and some real big Power 4 interest, as does Jamar Owens, a defensive back that I tweeted out today, guys. About 6'1", maybe 6'1.5". If you told me he measured in at 6'2" this summer, I wouldn't be surprised. But it is a very big summer for Jamar Owens. We're talking about him in April, and none of you probably know his name unless you're some diehard Georgia Tech fan and you study the offers that they've recently made. But Jamar is one of these guys that's getting a bunch of calls saying, hey, we need you to come camp. And he gonna camp well, okay, based off what I saw today in terms of movement skills. A lot of teams asking about top end speed, one of those schools being Georgia. So Jamar Owens, a name out of Jonesboro High School to be paying attention to. And a football player that I was really, really intrigued by today, guys. And I'm gonna show you some of the footage after the show that's on the camera roll. Jeremiah, I don't want to mess this up. Jeremiah Tickett, a defensive tackle out of Alaska, boys.
Ooh, they play football up there?
They do play. Well, I don't know if they played football up there. He was playing hoops up there. He's about 6'3", about 275 pounds.
Good Lord.
Has made and plays on the Jonesboro High School team, despite being and I don't want to mislabel him. I would imagine he's some type of. I think he's Samoan from Alaska. And he's only been playing football for about 2 years. And I think his biggest offer right now is Cincinnati. You just wait. You just wait until this spring when teams get around this guy. Because, again, I'm going to show you some of the lateral agility of this big joker. I'm interested maybe to pop on the tape if we've got time, even though it is an absolute slap-loaded show. But the most important observation and the most important conversation perhaps that I had today on the trail, okay, was with the Jonesboro High School coaching staff. And it revolves around food. Ooh. And as a lifelong larger man, I resonate with some food conversations, particularly around football coaches. They know some food. Did you know that McDonald's was out here serving steak sandwiches?
No, I did not know this.
No, I didn't know that.
This was news to me as well. And I don't know how you are, but I am, like, when I go through McDonald's, I am a sausage and cheese McGriddle guy. I love a McGriddle. I love a sausage McGriddle. The idea was proposed to me today that McDonald's has a steak and cheese McGriddle that is available. My first thought was, is it like country fried steak? No. This is legitimate steak. Like, this is steak from McDonald's that they are serving through the drive-thru. And here's the thing. Apparently, this is like life-changing smack. Like, this is some stuff that is outrageously good. So much so that the Jonesboro staff is like, return customers every morning at the local McDonald's. We'll see you tomorrow type shit going on at Jonesboro's local McDonald's with the staff. So I am going to try it out tomorrow, and I am excited about it. There's options to put it on bagels, all kinds of good stuff. You look very intrigued by this. Is it
like a new menu item thing, or is it like a secret menu?
This has to be new to me. I've never heard of this. I've never even seen it advertised. I've never seen it on the menu. This idea that they're out here serving legitimate steak at a McDonald's is news to me. This is much so news to me.
Well, when you texted it, the first thing I did was Google it because I was like, steak McGriddle. I have never even heard of this. I had to make sure it was actually real because I was very intrigued by it as well.
That's also, McDonald's steak, like Waffle House steak at like 2 a.m. is about as close as I'll go to that.
This was my conversation with the coaching staff. It's like, what does that say about me and my dietary habits where I'm like, you know what? I'll eat a pork sausage like patty that they unfroze and unthawed from the fridge, but I'm going to throw up some caution flags around some steak from McDonald's. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
fair.
So that was kind of what does that say about me and my palate where I'm judging the quality of the steak, but I'm going to put some straight up pork sausage in my throat.
I guess you just kind of accept.
Sorry. That's all me, bro. Go ahead.
Did you just set that up on purpose?
No, I didn't. I'm not that smart.
God.
I guess the thing for me is like steak is steak. Like you kind of accept that you don't really know what you're eating when you eat like a sausage or a hot dog.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know.
You expect high quality? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like steak is like one of the upper echelons of meat. So to say it's coming from McDonald's is kind of like, all right.
All right, so that's a solid 8 minutes of non-college football content that I'm sure has everyone hooked. We'll check the retention stats on this.
Someone's going to complain in the chat.
Maybe we move the thoughts from the trail to the back end of the show. Nonetheless, the boys are running the show today, so welcome in. We do indeed have a loaded show. This is the quality of the notes that your boy has taken today. The producers will be running and steering the show today, playing point guard over there. We'll see how they share the football. But nonetheless, welcome into tonight's show. We do indeed have a loaded one for you. We're going to get into a college football draft of sorts. Okay, it is NFL draft week. A lot going on there. We're going to draft a coach, an OC, a quarterback, a defensive unit, and an X factor. That says player. I'm just seeing that. I went a totally different route, but I think it's going to work out. Hey, a lot of Notre Dame hype with a recent article in the on ESPN.com. The Pac-12 has officially been nixed and killed. Their remaining two members kind of got the fork today. A Miller Moss article has arisen. Some Miller Moss hype, some non-anti-Miller Moss deep state going on, some Miller Moss, shall we call, propaganda going on out here. John Lynch had a comment about name, image, and likeness that we thought worthy of bringing to you. And of course, last night we talked about Caleb Williams. There are some more even crazier quotes coming out from NFL sources and NFL scouts from recent quotes. So we're going to bring you those today as well. But welcome in. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, and reviewing. All that good stuff. If you're missing any portion of tonight's broadcast, you can find it and will find it. However, wherever you catch your podcast, just search the Film Guy Network. Make sure you leave a review over there. Fire off in that chat. All those good stuff. I see Miller Mass, a good little quarterback pun right there going on. Grayson Lamb squirts is a little bit much for me, bro.
Yeah, I don't know what that
crap.
is. That's not food related.
No, that's not food related at all. Hey, might end up after a McDonald's breakfast steak sandwich. You might find out. Smooth transition right into our premier sponsor. Shout out to Prize Picks. Okay, if you haven't already, head over to prizepicks.com. Use promo code Brooks today. You'll get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you will instantly get matched in your account right then and there with another $100. It is indeed Taco Tuesday, and there are some late West Coast NBA hoops games to be getting in on. Okay, so if you haven't gotten your action in, make sure you do that today. Prizepicks.com, promo code Brooks. Do we want to start with this mini draft? I like this little segment. Which one of you brilliant producers brought this to our attention today? Is you?
I figured draft's going to be Thursday. We're going to be doing content for that. So why not, before the draft, have our own draft where you draft college football players? So the requirements I had for it were you get to pick one coach, one offensive coordinator, one quarterback, a defensive unit, and one X factor player. That can be whoever you want. That's just kind of your difference maker guy. Now, obviously, it's a draft. So if someone picks a certain player, say Jay Will picks Carson Beck, like Carson Beck's off the board, and he's got his quarterback now. So I didn't think about the order of that, though. So, but since you're the host and you've had the least time to prepare about this, I'll say you can go first.
Me?
Yeah, you get to go first.
You get first pick.
I get first pick?
Who you taking?
All right. It's a real homer pick. Just give me Kirby Smart. Offer it.
There.
I think there's a reasonable drop off from 1 to whoever you think is 2. I would have had a much harder decision picking a second coach here than any other coach. My list was literally like maybe swing around late and pick up like Eli Drinkowitz. Honestly, like I don't. The fall off from 1 to 2. In this discussion for me is a little bit drastic because, Harbaugh's gone. Ryan Day, still some questions there, obviously. All great coaches. And then, like Dabo Swinney in 2024, don't feel great about it. Like, who's the next great college football coach? Like, truly great year in, year out, might win a title? I don't know.
It's valid.
Am I up next?
Go ahead, J-Will.
All right. I think I'm going to, who do I want to take?
By the way, don't know why my brain immediately went to Eli Drinkowitz. I don't feel good about that. I really don't. I don't feel good about that. But here I am.
So I don't know if this goes against the rules or not, but for my OC, I'm taking Lane Kiffin. He's going to be my.
That definitely goes against the rules.
Goes against the rules, really?
I think you can have it. I think
it's a draft.
I mean, shit. In that case, give me Kalen DeBoer at the OC. Like, what are we doing,
bro? What?
It's got to be an OC. Do your research.
Oh my gosh! Then I guess I'll take Jackson Dart as my quarterback.
I just blew up his board.
Jeez. Yeah, you actually really did, to be honest.
All right, well, just take Kiffin. But moving forward,
okay. None of this.
Like best case scenario, give me Billy Napier just got fired. I'm gonna pick him up to be my OC. Like that is where the mythical situations I will reside. But like,
okay,
easy.
Well, anyways, I'll take Jackson Dart then as my quarterback for my first overall pick.
Okay,
I'll take that one.
Took Jackson Dart for your first Q. I'm going to go.
Look, I'm having to maneuver around a little bit. I wasn't familiar with the rules. Wasn't familiar with the game.
Just having right in front of me.
Yeah,
that's fine with me.
We're going to be all right.
Owner just came in and said we have to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
Is Carson still on the board?
Carson Beck is still on the board. I'm going to take Carson Beck.
Board got blown up, man.
It's all good.
I'm going to take Carson Beck for my QB1. So you've got your coach. You need someone else on. All
right, so I think I got a sneaky advantage here. I like my ideal situation already working itself out. And guess what? I know my 5th pick. I know it's going to be there. I'm going to have to figure out the X factor so I don't really blow up everybody's board and system because I didn't read player. So I have like an X factor that is not like directly roster related. So we're going to have to figure that out when we get there. But anyways, long story short, I'm taking Dylan Gabriel as my quarterback here with my 2nd overall selection.
Ooh, I like that.
I think Dylan Gabriel is going to rack it up. I also think Dylan Gabriel is a tremendous college quarterback. I don't know what it's going to work out like. I don't know what it's going to look like on the pro level. But I got 1 year college football, put a good surrounding system around him. Dylan Gabriel's going to go off. I feel good about that.
Everyone's got their quarterback now.
Everyone's got their Q.
I'm going to go ahead and snag my defensive unit, and I'm going to take Ohio State's defense.
Ooh,
I'm going to take that one. Get that one off the board. Go ahead and seal that one up. Thought I might wait another round for it, but didn't want to risk it. So, yeah, give me Ohio State's defense.
Little best player available strategy there for you. I like that.
I'm going to go ahead and take my OC. I want Buster Faulkner.
Okay. Ooh. I thought about this one. I definitely did. This was a high-value draft pick in the OC department. I think he's going to skip the big-time, like, even bigger job, OC job, and he's going to go straight to maybe a Power 4 head coaching job within the next 24 months.
That's what I think. So, I mean, it's definitely not a time-constraint pick, but get him while you can. So, for this year, I'm taking Buster Faulkner.
Who's next? Me?
Yep.
Yeah, you're up.
So, my 3rd pick was going to be Ohio State's defense. but you left it there for me. It was my number one defense on the board. Give me Georgia. I'm going to take Georgia's defensive unit here. So far, I have, oh my God, I know my fifth pick too. So it's going to be like super Georgia heavy here. I got Kirby so far as the head coach. Hey, honey. I got Dylan Gabriel as the quarterback. And I got Georgia's defense. I like what I got going on. I got some continuity. Yeah. I got the guy who invented the defense and the keys to the system running the show. I like that.
Okay.
Dylan Gabriel Iglesias. Golly.
That's not food related, but that is good.
That is good. It's not food related, but it is fat related. And I think that's the category.
It's fluffy related.
No, it's fat related.
He's not fat, he's fluffy.
You're right, I guess. But, the world would probably, fluffy. We'll go with that.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and pick, who do I have? Okay, I need my head coach still. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get Kyle Whittingham as my head coach.
Interesting.
I'm going to take that one because, I'm trying to go like I get to pick my OC. I got to make sure I get some defensively strong-minded head coaches. I'm going to go ahead and get Kyle Whittingham locked it up. Familiar with the Utes and the defense out there, so I'm going to lock that one down to make sure I get all facets of my game for my program.
I like it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and then take my X Factor. I want Caleb Downs.
Okay.
I feel like that's a fit.
So that means I lose Caleb Downs off of my defense?
No,
we just cloned Caleb Downs.
Yeah, you have two Caleb.
Fair enough.
That means both of you have to pick up the payroll, though. So
that's tough. You're up.
Any more analysis on your Caleb Downs selection?
I think he's one of the players that could surprise you with the fact that what?
Oh, no, go ahead. You're good.
Just the fact that he can do so much, and as he's on my team, he's damn sure going to be returning kicks. He's going to have some offensive packages in there. He's obviously going to be playing safety, controlling our defense, being the field general. So just a real X-factor player.
So what I believe Ohio State to be doing now with him, anyways, I think they're going to do that in terms of what you just laid out. That leaves me my fourth pick overall, which is still available because it was an X factor. I was going to take LSU's home field advantage as an X factor, but a player is Travis Hunter, and he's still on the board, so I'm going to go him.
That's a good safe pick.
Yeah,
can't go wrong with that one. My OC. Since my other one got doxed.
My bad, bro.
No, you're good. It's a very valid explanation of why I can't do that. I'll go Chip Kelly. I think that's a really solid one.
Good pick.
Bring him back, baby. He's got some head coaching experience as well, so I think it's going to be a solidified unit with him and Whittingham running the ship out there. So, I'm taking Chip Kelly.
I think my defense, because head coaches are still available, so I can take whatever defense I want. I'm going to go with Penn State's defense.
Okay.
I feel like they've always got some solid players on there, pretty underrated defense, and there's really no one else on the board I can think of that's truly got an elite defense.
Maybe Clemson, depending on how you feel about their young second group. They're not as deep as some of these units.
They're not deep enough for me.
Could Ole Miss play, like on paper, Ole Miss looks like one of these teams. They just have good quality, football players at every level, most of which they brought in through the transfer portal. But
is it a little wrong to kind of compare them a little bit to what Florida State felt like a little bit last year? Now, I know hindsight is
that's not a bad comp.
There's hindsight with Florida State, going into last year. We didn't exactly have this type of clarity that we feel like we have about Ole Miss, but just kind of how that roster is built, and you have a lot of veteran players. It kind of feels like a one-year shot.
The only thing I would say is I felt like Florida State's run was the year 2 with those retreads.
Yeah.
Right? It was Fisk's second year there. That was Versus' second year there, right? That was down the quarterback's third year in the system. They had been there a while. So this feels like Chip's all-in approach right now with Ole Miss, where it was more of like a semi-long play. And if you look at Florida State, and I don't know if Norvell gets enough credit in this sense. He took guys from small schools that they saw value in. You know what I mean? No one, I don't think people were knocking down the door for Braden Fisk. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Keon Coleman's a different discussion. That guy had O's everywhere when he hit the portal from Michigan State. Everybody wanted him. But the Verse kid coming from, wasn't it Albany? This is a small school cat that nobody was really paying attention to. So I don't know if Norvell got enough credit for all of that. Whereas Ole Miss is you paid for Walter Nolan. Okay. Does that speak about your ability to develop or your eyesight for talent? No, that speaks more about your ability to get high quality talent into your building. Where are we at? Who's up next?
You're up.
All right, so this is my fifth and final pick.
Yeah, you need an OC, I believe.
Yeah, give me Bobo. Nice and easy.
Big Georgia.
Yeah, and here's why: continuity wins. Like I think I would have picked. I think Bobo's a reasonable answer for this period because no matter what, moving forward, however long he chooses to coach at Georgia, he's going to have better ingredients than anybody in the sport.
That's fair.
Better ingredients than anybody in the sport. And I don't know about you guys, but point to me the year where Mike Bobo failed to put up 35 points per game when he had a top 5 offensive roster. Matter of fact, when he has a top 5 offensive roster, which is like never happened, maybe last year, puts up a top 5 like offense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Mike Bobo is certainly a solid choice for that.
Now, I had other options, right? You took Chip Kelly. Nobody picked Ludwig out of Utah.
Yeah, that's
I think that's, if I was going to go non-Homer crowd, I would have gone there. But, playing to the audience.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to play a little bit. I think I'm the smartest person in the room for my last pick, for my X Factor player. And I'm going Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State. He had 1,347 rushing yards, nearly 600 receiving yards, 19 touchdowns, and averaged 7.3 yards per play. A little Swiss Army knife action in the backfield with Jackson Dart and Chip Kelly. I like my odds there.
I almost took Barrett Carter as an X Factor.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, so my final pick, I need a head coach. Just give me Dan Lanning. I think that's
he's got some good ones left.
He's the next up and coming coach. I mean, Dan Lanning was on the board. Ryan Day, a lot of solid coaches.
I'm so embarrassed. Drink came to my mind before Dan Lanning. That's how my schedule was busy today. I was just off my rocker.
Yeah, when you said that, I was kind of like Dan Lanning.
I thought maybe we were gonna go like Dan Drink's. If we're picking against 32 other teams. First round draft pick at the coach position.
And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to.
But we probably should have.
No, you probably should have.
That was a bad job on us by not pushing back.
No, we shouldn't have pushed back because how we said that and then go, I wanted to pick Dan Lanning instead. It'd been fun if you picked Eli Drinkowitz.
Well, you guys made it easy. I just took Kirby right off the bat. You gave me 1-1. Had you gave me come back round 2 or maybe like 5th overall pick, like if I was in your shoes, I would have been made to look like a real dummy. Honestly, I should have just saved the inner idiot thought that Eli Drinkowitz needs to be in the discussion of essentially a top 3 head coach.
Yeah.
You're an idiot. That kind of thing.
Who is your OC?
Chip Kelly.
That's right.
All right, y'all are driving the show. Where are we going next?
Just to summarize it really quick, your team, Brooks, is Kirby Smart at the head coach, Dylan Gabriel's quarterback, Georgia's defense, Mike Bobo, and then Travis Hunter's your X Factor, Jay Will, Kyle Whittingham's your coach, Jackson Dart's your quarterback. You have Ohio State's defense, Chip Kelly's your OC, and then Ashton Jeanty is your X Factor. For me, Dan Lanning is my coach, Carson Beck's a quarterback, Penn State's defense, Buster Faulkner, and then Caleb Downs is my X Factor. Which team are you taking there?
Oh, mine.
I gotta be honest, I like my team.
Honestly, didn't listen. I was reading the chat. You look on your face. I'm so sorry. Too much caffeine, too many random thoughts. I wanted to make sure he was here in the chat before I gave him the shout out in the opening rant. I want to give a shout out to our boy Jamal. Jamal pulled up on me today at Jonesboro High School, and I'm not going to say I encourage this, but my schedule is pretty well known. I'll be at Woodward tomorrow. If you want to come say what's up, watch some good football. Woodward's got like 12 Division I football players that I am aware of. So we're going to be watching that one really, really closely. And like I said, I think the pads are going to pop out there tomorrow. So by the way, if you got a contact for a Woodward coach, hit me up. I might have to text Jeremy about that right now. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Shout out to Jamal, pulled up with the kiddos, said what's up. It was a good little time. So shout out to him. Shout out to all you guys for being here tonight. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Where are we going next, boys?
You're talking about 12 kids that you said have the D1 potential there at Woodward. There's a 12 in the college football that's no longer 12. Pac-12 is officially stripped of. How do you pronounce that, dude? Because I always mess it up.
What's that?
Autonomy.
Yeah.
Autonomy. Yeah.
So yeah, they've been officially stripped of that, which means they're not recognized as a conference anymore. I mean, no one truly treated them as such just because there's 2 teams in there now. But moving forward, it kind of leaves Oregon State and Washington State on an island, which means they're going to play teams from the Mountain West and West Coast conferences. But here's the thing. They aren't recognized as either members of either conference. So they could go 12-0 in the regular season, and they will not play in a conference championship, which is essentially now, I don't think they had playoff aspirations, but that really puts a.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is like, could they? They could still be recognized as a potential playoff team, though. Like
They could. I think they're gonna. What it basically means now is they're gonna get the quote Group of 5 treatment.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but that's where I was going to go with this. Is that like, would they take up a group? They wouldn't take up a Group of 5 spot though. So then, like, I don't know. That's interesting to me.
I think they would.
They would.
Are they classified as Group of 5 now?
They're not classified as a Power 4.
Well, here's the thing, though. They're not going to get. They wouldn't get the auto bid for Group of 5 because they're not in a conference.
Yeah,
they're just floating around right now. So it would have to be they get one of the other add-ons where the committee says, "Okay, we want this team here." It doesn't matter what conference. Doesn't matter what your relegation is. Now, obviously, this is all hypothetical. I don't think Washington State or Oregon State are going to be playoff teams, but it is interesting. The article also did say that both teams are actively looking for a conference to join that is autonomous. So we might see more conference realignment where maybe the Big 12 adds 2 more teams, or
they're not Big Ten. No offense to Wazoo or Oregon State, but there's a reason they got left out. They're not Big Ten quality. The ACC has no interest in any team that far West Coast except for Stanford and Cal, which was really weird.
And Notre Dame, maybe.
But they're East Coast. That make no sense for Stanford and Cal right now to be in the ACC. 0. So that one was really, really weird. But nonetheless, the conference realignment discussion is really, really weird. I think these 2 football teams fit way more into the Big 12 discussion. I would honestly say maybe the Big 12 even turns their nose up to this and they get kind of stuck with the Mountain West, which they would run the Mountain West. But there's casualties every single time conference realignment happens like this. If you look through the history of college football, somebody gets the shit into the stick. It was Colorado in the 90s, I'm pretty sure, where they were in a major conference and they got pushed out and things like that. So this happens all the time. Not all the time. It happens every 2 or 3 decades, but it sucks for those who get crushed. And I think these are going to be casualties of this.
Yeah.
By the way, when whatever happened, like if the ACC were to ever split up, there are going to be some casualties in that one.
Yeah, for sure. You think Wake Forest is going to have a
I mean, if the SEC and the Big Ten swallow the sport, like there are going to be some casualties out here with regards to who's in the power conferences or who's on auto bid type football teams. So
I just hope it doesn't impact the Wazoo flag being at the college game day set every year. Hopefully they stay strong with that tradition.
Maybe that's the boycott that will work.
Ooh, that is an effect. Like he's been to what, like 700 consecutive game days?
Something insane. I think I saw something where they now like basically help him travel every time to like the different sets they go to and the different destinations and whatnot.
Respect.
I think that Oregon State definitely has a place somewhere in college football. I think that would be the one that hurts the most to see them go because, I mean, Jonathan Smith had them playing some pretty decent football. I think he was utilizing the transfer portal in all the right ways to at least have that program doing something recognizable. You can say it was in the Pac-12 or not, but I mean, they were at least kind of in that competitive tier for them. So I would hate to see them go. But yeah, I mean, casualties are inevitable when you're having this much change going on and this many conferences just kind of switching things up quite a bit.
And they're not really an NIL team that has the ability to bolster a roster, but NIL is having an effect on the NFL draft right now, and
those are. I know where you're going. You're working transitions tonight. I see you working.
I'm trying.
You're efforting. A little heavy-handed on that one.
I'm doing my best.
You're working. That's what I'm saying. I noticed what you're doing. I'm complimenting what you're doing while coaching what you're doing. Neither, and not to say that this is the end all be all, but like Oregon State and Wazoo don't have, I could be wrong, but they don't have national contending programs in any of the other revenue sports either.
Oregon State's baseball program was decent.
It's decent for a little while.
They had some. They had
a run.
Yeah,
they won the World Series like 2 or 3 years ago, didn't they?
They had like the top MLB prospect, I believe, at one point, a catcher. I can't remember his name right now, but I mean
a spurt.
Yeah. It's not like Oregon State's consistently competitive in basketball. They're kind of like every 5 years maybe in college football for the last 15 years. And then I can't even tell you about any of the other sports. So
yeah, they won the World Series in 2018.
Yeah,
which I mean, shit, that was 6 years ago now.
Yeah, so maybe not even that recent as we remember.
Dude, I'm old.
That's old to you, huh?
I mean, 6 years ago.
That's what makes you think that you're old as Oregon State's.
No, 2018 was 2018 was 6 years ago, dude. Like,
whatever.
There's kids that are in elementary school right now that weren't even born at that time. Ugh, that's disgusting.
Where are you transitioning next?
I was talking about this NFL and NIL draft impact where John Lynch was talking about.
Oh, yeah. You guys printed this article out for me and put it on the desk today. I also read it while I was in traffic today. Not texting and driving, Mom. I'm not on my phone. I was in traffic, so I was sitting still, 75 to 85, all that good nonsense.
How fast you were going?
Yeah, something like that. Quote, this is from John Lynch in his NFL draft press conference. I was just looking at my notes, and one interesting thing to me, dynamic in the way of the world right now, we put a grade on all players in the fall if we think there's more than a 50% chance that they're going to be in this draft. So 83 players from this year's class that we put grades on returned to school. So thinking there's more than a 50% chance, thinking they're entering the draft, are back in college because of NIL and things like that. There's now a different route these kids can take, and 35 of those are with starter grades. So that's a significant amount, and how that affects this draft is going to be interesting. Now, the COVID senior years add on to this, right? Georgia has 3 of these right now. Ohio State has a couple of these as well. This was not just this draft. It's really impacting this draft. This impacted last draft. You would imagine as well. But, 35 guys with draftable serious grades. Like I said, Georgia has 3 of them, that were, super seniors that decided to come back that had draftable grades. Guys like Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, Xavier Truss. You look at Ohio State's roster, JT Tuamaloa, we've talked multiple times, NFL draft grade. They got a safety with a draftable grade. They had Jack Sawyer with a draftable grade, right? This is a repetitive theme that we're finding in college football, both because NIL is allowed and additional years of eligibility have created this.
Yeah, we talked about this kind of yesterday, where teams are kind of viewing the experience you have differently. First round quarterbacks back in the day was oh, he's 24, he's already kind of old, he's already kind of getting up there. Now it's if you don't have 3 or 4 years of experience in the college level, we don't really want you. So it is interesting. Just 25 games is what Brooks says. So stuff like that is very interesting.
Well, too, Quinn Ewers is probably the most notable example of this from this last year's class. But at the same time, probably doesn't impact the draft a whole lot this year because it is quite a loaded QB class. They're going to come off the board really hot. So probably a good decision by Quinn Ewers to remain and stay put at Texas. But it is interesting just to think about 35 players on your board and then having to X all of them out. That's now 35 more players that you're trying to find on your board. And these decisions are announced in December. So that's essentially, that's 4 months now that you have to find 35 new players to put on your board and find equivalent draft grades is what you'd hope. If you find a starter grade on those 35 players, you're now having to sift through all the players again and try and find what you think is 35 starters in this year's draft.
Yeah, it's got to have some effect on the quality of your analysis, just because you feel like you're having to rush things so much where you don't get to do as deep of a dive now because, we've had this guy on our board for so long, but he's not coming to the draft anymore. So
what now?
What part did you not hear?
Who's not coming to the draft?
Just guys that have basically opted to take their
I thought you were talking about someone's not showing up to the draft. I'm a GM not showing up to the draft. That's crazy. No, what I was thinking more about was just the eligibility thing is one thing. The NIL thing is not. Is it that comparable? If you're a starter in college football, in Power 5 football at a major school, let's say you're making $150,000. You're a 7th round draft pick. You get that in a signing bonus plus a salary. Do you not?
Pretty much, yeah.
So it's obviously impacted. It's something,
Yeah.
And you would imagine they have about maybe 300, 400 guys that they have draftable grades on, right? 7 rounds times 32 is 270, 21 or 210. Okay. Roughly 240. So you probably have 300 guys you have draftable grades on. You're losing a 10th of that to this.
Yeah.
That's a lot to be flipping over, like you said, in 4 months.
And that's why I kind of had some questions about it's hard for me to believe that NIL is swaying decisions like this that much, especially for football. Other sports like basketball where there's only 2 rounds, it kind of makes sense that I want to play all 6 years if I can, or 5 years in basketball. We see it all the time in women's basketball right now too, because we know the situation with the WNBA. Those types of sports, it makes sense. But football, I was kind of interested wow, I guess I really didn't think that it would be that comparable,
Yeah.
All right. This Notre Dame hype, did we already talk about?
No, we have not.
Let's talk about this Notre Dame story. So I saw a headline today that said Notre Dame shaping up for college football playoff home game. It was the headline article on ESPN. And then you open up the article, sometimes there's like thumbnail titles, and then you open up the article and there's like a real like main headline title.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The main headline title removed the home playoff game portion of it. However, the article goes on to talk about how Notre Dame is primed, to make a run this year. So I just throw it out there to you guys. The idea that Notre Dame is, maybe one of these shoo-ins or a potential for a top 4. That's a top 4 eval going into this year's playoff run.
I feel like for the ever since honestly I've started watching college football, which like we're really paying attention.
You doing Hype Train?
Yeah, which is like the 2008 season. I feel like Notre Dame has always been hey, watch out, this team could be good this year. They're primed for this. They have X, they have Y, they have the quarterback they need. They've followed the same formula my entire life, and they've always seemed to fall short. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things now at this point where, yeah, this might be the year. You might be right. They might have all the indicators that, hey, this is a playoff team. But the reality is, until you show us, I'm not going to buy into it.
Now, I will say, like, the schedule is moderately set up for them to make a playoff push. I mean, the notable games they have on the schedule is they open up with Texas A&M, and then they have Louisville on the schedule 4 weeks later, Georgia Tech, Florida State, and then they close out with Army and then Southern and then USC. So, like,
it's very winnable. That's 13-0.
Yeah, it very easily
could be.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But the only thing too is that like offensive output is obviously the biggest question for me. And I know that you were asking about wide receiver stats for me. That's what you kind of wanted to know for Notre Dame this season. So I went and dug those up. And this is what I found. So Notre Dame returns Jaden Thomas and Jaden Greathouse, who combined for 575 yards and 7 touchdowns on 49 receptions. That's 2 of the more notable guys.
That's the slide in the X. Jaden Thomas is from Pace Academy right here in Atlanta, Georgia.
And then they also brought in an FIU wide receiver from the transfer portal this year. He was the leading wide receiver, Chris Mitchell. He's another slot guy. He's 6 foot, 184 pounds, and he's had 64 receptions for 1,118 yards and 7 touchdowns last year for them. After that, it's like, is Deion Colsey going to finally find his way onto the field and be an impactful player for us?
Shout out Athens Academy.
Or is Jordan Faison going to build off of what he did last year? He had 332 receiving yards. So it's not exactly a wide receiver room that has a whole lot of output, a whole lot of history of making big things happen on the football field. Maybe this transfer guy is going to provide a spark. And then it's also, you're working in a transfer quarterback in Riley Leonard, who has kind of missed a lot of the spring. So that's the only question I really have about it. And it's a big question. I mean, offensive output, this is an offensive style of football game in college football now. So it's a big question that they need to answer.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I just have this thought, and I've had it all day today. And I'm not saying that they're going to go on some kind of run, right? But this is a football team right now that is built ball out, right? Mm-hmm. They're built on the lines of scrimmage. They play historically good defense. They have a football coach with a tremendous amount of energy and charisma that is recruiting at a top 5 level, relatively perennially. Now, they've just cracked it. It seems like they're going to hold that. They're in the top 5, I think 3rd overall in the consensus rankings right now in the 2025 class. But they have zero offensive, like a consistency explosively outside weaponry wise. Like when you look at them from a wide receiver and tight end standpoint, tight end not so much. Recently, they've had a bunch of guys. But from a wide receiver standpoint, they look like 2017, 18, and 19 Georgia football. That's what they look like to me. Where, dude, you're going to win a lot of your football games, and you're going to physically manhandle a lot of your opponents. And then when you get into football games where you got to win against a good defense and a good offense like 35-34, it's going to look ugly, and you're going to lose 35-14. That's what Notre Dame feels like to me right now. That's what their roster looks like to me. And whether or not Riley Leonard is some NFL football player, I think we would have found. Well, he was really banged up last year, but
really banged up.
He could be great. He could look great, but they don't have a lot. Like even the guys you mentioned in terms of returners, like Jaden Thomas has been a very touch and go football player for them throughout his career. They need him to be a dominant NFL caliber X to be a college football playoff contender, in my opinion. They got to find it somewhere on the roster. They're taking stabs at some retreads too, like Bo Collins from Clemson. Like that's a we hope we can fix them type stuff, and we're doing that because we need to fix ourselves. Like that screams, we need help at a desperate position where we have a hole. So I don't necessarily buy it until that happens, but they are going to handle that schedule. I promise you right now. Be prepared.
They better handle that schedule. Like, if you don't, I think you have to start talking about, like, is Marcus Freeman the answer?
You recruit like this, you're going to get a run. I'm telling you. And I think with you got to be very careful. As Notre Dame, for those of you who don't know, just had a 17-year athletic director retire. So I don't know if they're going to be like ready to be rushing to make any drastic changes. You could also say the theory of, well, new AD wants some new blood in there. Maybe he wants his own guy, that kind of thing. I don't know if they inward promoted. I'm not out here tracking the AD hirings. But that being said, I would be very, very cautious about willy-nilly changing coaches right now with the state of college football. I think there's a very strong possibility that the ground beneath us, and I'm not talking about shakes, I'm just talking about gets blown up and we start anew, right? We put a bubble around the college football sport and we just blow up its surface and we put it on wheels and just roll it over to something new, relatively soon. And in that situation, I would not be wanting to turn over a coaching staff.
No, I agree with that. I mean?
But so I do think if you got a guy that you feel decent about, you hold on to him right now.
Right. I'm just saying, like, if he doesn't perform to this level, you have to start asking, like, is he the answer? Not saying you move on from him, especially the way college football is moving as rapidly as it is, but you have to at least go, like, is this the guy that's going to win us a championship within the next 3 years?
Do you think them remaining independent helps them in this expanded playoff a lot?
I think when it went to 12, it helped them because how are you not going to rank Notre Dame inside the top 12?
Yeah. Right.
But I think it hurt them in the sense that with all of the additional conference games being added to a lot of these schedules, the SEC eventually most likely going to 9, the Big Ten already at 9. I think the Big 12 is moving to 9. The ACC probably moving to 9. With all of these additional conference games, you're going to have a lot of teams that are like, dude, F you. I just got Clemson added on my schedule. I am not picking up a Notre Dame out of conference game. Like, you can piss off. So in 5 years from now, as an independent, does their schedule look like a bunch of non-Power 4 members? And in that case, they better get their ass into a conference. But I think what really they have all of the leverage in the world in the sense that no matter what happens, they're going to be a wanted commodity. They will be a product that people want to buy. So the moment they want to play ball, they'll get bought. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it definitely does benefit them for this year specifically, knowing what their schedule is. And that's just a benefit of, Florida State is probably going to have a down year. USC, we'll talk about them in a second with Miller Moss. But, I mean, it's just a whole, like, Texas A&M, that's your opening game. Mike Elko's out there for his first year. Like, that's a team that's going to have to –
home game?
I believe it's actually on the road. Yeah, it's at College Station.
Okay, that's a little tougher.
Opening weekend, 12th man might be getting a little rowdy, so that might get a little interesting. But then after that, I mean, you got Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio before you even play Louisville, and that's going to be that's going to be at home as well. So I think they have a lot of things on their side as far as the schedule goes. So this year specifically, with the window of having Riley or Leonard this year, and just kind of hoping and praying that one of your wide receivers builds into something special, maybe they can get a connection going with Leonard, then maybe you can turn yourself into a playoff team. Maybe that sparks a run for Marcus Freeman and them.
They will go as the weapons go. Mm-hmm. I mean, what does their running back depth even look like? I know they lost Estime this past offseason. I'm seeing, Jeremiah Love is a redshirt freshman that Georgia was heavy in on. But I don't know if you're going to give Jeremiah Love 20 totes. I don't know how much bigger Jeremiah Love's gotten. When he was coming out of high school, he looked like he's about $185. And then I don't know much about Jadarian Price. I'm not going to sit here and give you an eval on that one. But there are some losses, right? You obviously got to replace Joe Alt out there, left tackle as well. All right, let's talk about this Miller Moss article, I guess, before so we're going to close with some USC talk here, it looks like.
Back to back.
I want to say this first and foremost. Do y'all remember watching the Miami shows?
Like
when I was in Miami by myself doing shows from the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
You remember what I said about my prediction for their bowl game?
The Miller Moss?
Bro, I called him Mid-Moss. I didn't even call him Miller. I called him Mid-Moss.
You called him that for a while.
Yeah, because I remember it in high school. I was just not – I didn't understand how Miller Moss was going to USC. I guess I didn't get the Moxie eval on that one. I didn't get the gamer eval on that one. Maybe that was a guy you had to go watch play on a Friday night, and him being West Coast, I didn't see it. But I guess that's a rule and a lesson on not to have too strong of a disliking opinion when you go out to situations like that. But it was one game. Well, first and foremost,
he's played one game.
Nonetheless, I did not. It was like 450 guys. It wasn't just one game. It was like holy shit, one game. Right? It was enough to have Lincoln Riley out here thinking that this is going to be my guy. See you, Malachi Nelson. We'll talk to you later. All right, we're riding the Miller Moss show in 2024. Like. That's a stamp of approval if you'll ever get one.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger takeaways that I had from the article is there's a snippet in there of Lincoln Riley telling Miller Moss, like, we're going to go into the portal, but we're not getting a guy that is going to come in here and necessarily compete with you. We're not getting an older guy from the portal. We're going to get someone younger. We're going to build some of the depth. Like, we want you to be the guy moving forward. And Lincoln Riley has a tremendous track record with QBs. So if he's getting that stamp of approval from him and like Lincoln Riley has confidence going into this season with Miller Moss, I think that there should be some acceptance and like, whoa, like Miller Moss might be one of these dudes next year. Maybe he is one of these guys that just kind of flies up the charts because he has a successful season with USC this season.
I mean, obviously you trust Lincoln Riley's ability to coach quarterbacks. I think he's the best one in college football. I'm hesitant to jump on this Miller Moss hype train just yet. Yeah, I had a really good bowl game, but I think that I don't want to buy into everything that they're selling just off one game.
I'll tell you one thing I did love from this article as well, specifically about Miller Moss, is that his mom and dad were mentioned in this article multiple times, quotes from them. And what they continued to mention about him was how obsessive he is about things.
Yeah.
And football became one of these things that he became obsessive with. Like, they talked about having all kinds of books about space and Greek gods and like anything that he was attached to, like they just like flooded it in and he became very obsessive with. And obsessive is a great trait to have if you want to be successful. And plus the fact too, this is a guy that's stuck around. He's been under Caleb Williams and he's kind of just stayed put. He thought about leaving, but he wanted to stay put with USC. He loves USC. Been in the system now for multiple years. Like, I think he is set up for success.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you.
Go ahead.
Has Lincoln Riley ever had a bad quarterback?
Spencer Rattler in 21 wasn't very good.
It was a bad offensive line, I would argue.
That's fine. I mean,
and a bad run game. They were impossible to move the football, so much so that they almost had to put Caleb Williams in just to run the ball. To give it, like, to take account for a hat, essentially.
Then in his head coaching tenure, no, he's never had a bad quarterback.
I'm just saying, like, it's one of those systems that, like, and even people even do does Lincoln's quarterbacks work on the NFL level? I would argue it hasn't been that bad, like Jalen Hurts has worked out. Baker Mayfield's gotten his second contract. Kyler Murray got his second contract. Like, these aren't flat duds coming out of his system.
No.
So I don't think he's ever made a bad decision at the quarterback position.
I agree.
So we'll see. That was why it was so alarming, I think, for the college football world when he just I had Malachi Nelson for 10 months and he can get out of here. Like, we're good. He can just walk to the portal. We're fine.
Yeah.
You didn't see any other major program sniff on that one, so much so that he's at Boise State now.
No, I guess this is probably the Lincoln Riley aspect of it too, is that how much hype are we putting into Miller Moss? Are we putting the Caleb Williams ceiling on him? Are we putting a Kyler Murray, a Baker Mayfield, like a Heisman contender ceiling on him? Or is it going to be he's going to be a very, very solid quarterback in college? Because I agree with that.
What I'm saying is I think it's almost impossible to be statistically bad as USC's quarterback. I think Miller Moss baseline floor will be 3,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, and maybe 10 interceptions, whatever. That's like as bad as you will look as a starter in that offense. That's just the way it goes. In my opinion. I mean, again, he's never now, granted, he's had really talented guys, but he's never this is probably the least talented quarterback he's ever entered a season with. I think we can say that. But he's never had a bad one. So
he even had good quarterback play at East Carolina when he was there. Also, just found out Kurt Benkert played there for him for 2 years. So, I mean, it's a track record that goes back to his days as an OC. I mean, he has consistently had good quarterback play, or at least he has been able to find ways to make his quarterbacks play well and put up good numbers and for him to have success offensively. So I see no reason why he can't do that with Miller Moss and Zachariah Branch this season. I mean, that's a duo that you would probably bet on again in most matchups this season.
Need a lot of growth and development from Deuce Robinson if that offense is going to maximize what it can be. So there's that. All right, last segment here on the National Hour, and it looks like we're going to be running a little fast tonight on the show topics. It's not the end of the world there. Let's get these. So last night we talked about Caleb Williams' weird-ass interview with Pivot and Ryan Clark, and today on Pablo Torre Finds Out on the Dan Lebtard and Friends Network, there were some quotes released from a former NFL scout. This is him. These are quotes from a former NFL scout talking to people who are still very, very connected and are connected actively with NFL football teams. Quote, "He scares the shit out of me and out of a lot of NFL teams too. The book on him is that he's kind of a weird kid," one GM told me. "It's like if Prince played quarterback."
It's a good thing he doesn't play basketball.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good Dave Chappelle shout right there. Prince?
Yeah, that was a weird comp.
I get it though.
Why? Because he paints his fingernails?
No,
in his
it's just
pink
like
phone case?
he's such an obscure personality that you look at him and you're like, what is this? Is this like,
Yeah.
is this swagger? Do I like this? Do I hate this? Like, that's what it is. And he's talented at what he does. Like, there's no denying Prince's talent, but like, Prince as a personality could very well rub you the wrong and be like, who is that?
I don't know. I feel like Prince has this aura about him that everybody who's ever met him talks of him as he is this outer earthly being. I don't
That's
get
fine.
that. I don't get that from Caleb. I get people thinking that people's impression of Caleb is that he thinks he's that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
he is that. He thinks he's that.
That's for sure.
So maybe the quote should be he thinks he's Prince, not he is Prince at the quarterback position. However, I everything I've been around and seen of Caleb, if I threw the football like that, you couldn't tell me shit.
Yeah.
Ever. If I could do what that dude did on the football field, you could never tell me a word. Period.
You would be insufferable if you had Caleb
Very much
Williams'
so.
talent.
Very much so. If I had Caleb Williams' talent, I would be 1,000% insufferable.
I mean,
So,
you're sitting here telling everyone you're better than Aaron Murray.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm sitting right here telling people I can throw the football better than Aaron Murray because I can.
Imagine if you had Caleb Williams' talent now.
If I had a 1% shoot instead of a 2%er,
Lord.
it'd be crazy. Another quote for you. "I hated it. He would scare the shit out of me if I was working for a team. Raw emotion," this is on him crying. "Raw emotion is great, but Caleb's thing, that was ridiculous to me. That threw up major red flags." Crying about the game of football at the end of your career. Red flag, apparently.
Well, here's the
to an
thing.
NFL scout.
Here's the thing.
First of all, guarantee you over under on that dude's age, 68. Guaranteed that dude's old.
But he said red flag. We think a 68-year-old knows what red flag means.
For sure. They've been playing red flags forever.
I feel like that's more of like a newer term, though, that's kind of resurfaced.
That's fine. Here's my thing on the Caleb Williams, the crying thing that I think it was so interesting. It was like game 7 of the regular season.
That's what it said. You just lost a game in the middle of your effing season, and it was like your third loss in the Pac-12, and you went hugging on mommy and crying in mommy's arms. And it just seems really freaking weird and nuts. This guy does not like Caleb Williams.
No, but I do understand where he's coming from. Not from as opinionated spot as that. Like, it looked very weird to go into your mom's arms and cry. Now, I understand if this is his last game ever. He just lost. He's never going to play another snap of college football. Or, this was the national championship game. He was so close to having it all. Having it as your second or third loss to the season, it was like, what made that so important to you? Again, and it goes back to what I said yesterday, where so many of the things he does and so many of his actions and what he says to me feel disingenuous. Now, I'm sure that he was very upset, and I'm sure that he legitimately was crying, but I also feel like there was a part of him that knew that there were going to be cameras on him and knew that there was going to get a reaction to that.
Look, I'm with the chat in a sense and in a way here. Hunter Lacey says, it's not that he cried, it's how he cried in his mom's arms on camera. Look, football players got to thug it out. Like, you got to cry with the lip bit, like one of those, and just let like one roll out the crack of your eye.
Like the Denzel tear.
Yeah. Like, just a real professional man cry. That it's almost like a No-Sean cry. No-Sean's the epitome of this, where you just hit one eye flash, one little blink, and it's like, boom, Niagara Falls out of man's eye. But not a single crack in the face. Doing the Lambo leap into mommy's arm.
The Lambo leap.
Doing the Lambo leap into mommy's arm is a little bit much. Yeah, if you've ever seen a real moment in the life, like that dude's about to cry, but he continues to like be a gangster about it and just lets one roll. Ooh, that'll give you goosies.
Yeah.
Do you think
my high school captain quarterback Cantrell Frazier let one out at team camp one time where he was, and that was it.
I know that NFL viewership is like very incomparable to college football. Do you think that they might, like the Chicago Bears might see an uptick in their viewership this year? Because like much like last year, everybody was hate watching Colorado at the beginning of the last year because everybody wanted to watch them lose. It's the reason why. Now the Colorado State game was a great football game in of its own, but people were wanting Colorado to lose that game, and that's why so many people were watching. Do you think that the Bears are going to see this because so many people are going to hate watch Caleb Williams and just hope that it burns out and fails?
For sure. I mean, I'm sorry to answer your question for you, but like,
what's for everybody?
People like hate watching is one of the most effective ways to. It's not even hate watching. I think
some would argue I might have played at some hate watching methods early in my career. What
do you mean?
One of those things. I did do when I first got introduced to the market. People did not like me. At least the not the majority. Obviously, that's not how that works. But there was a contingent of the fan base that was like, you know what? This guy's kind of a douche. Like, I got that word a lot. You were around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah.
And I still get it today. Now it's more clown. I get a lot of clown from opposing fan bases that don't watch the show. They just watch the 60-second clip we put out. But
Shout out Learn Football or Die.
Yeah. Shout out Learn Football or Die. What were we talking about?
I was talking about people hate watching the Bears next year because Caleb Williams is going to be around. Everybody's just preying on his downfall at this point.
You set yourself up for these things when you do interviews like that and you say things like he said.
Is he already the most hated player in the NFL?
No.
Who is? Who's most hated?
Travis Kelce, maybe, but Travis Kelce.
I know who's the most polarizing.
Who's that?
Aaron Rodgers, by far.
That's fair.
I mean, he did say the government planted AIDS, like recently.
That is an interesting thing.
Also, almost ran for vice president.
He didn't know.
Polarizing.
I will say, as a professional quarterback, that's a very interesting thing to say.
It's what I love. I'm not a doctor nor a specialist, but the government planted AIDS. That's wild. It's a wild thing to say. But anyways, we have a whole other hour coming up right now. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You like that? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into the Film Guy Network here on a beautiful, fabulous, wonderful, terrific Tuesday afternoon, evening, whatever the hell it is. We have another hour coming up for you right now. It is our local hour where we will talk nothing, exclusively the dogs. All right. And I think the most pertinent issue or topic, I should say, on everybody's topic board would obviously be Jaden Rashada. Now, it's been very quiet on my end today on this one. However, I do know the timetable, right? He got into town late last night, I'm told, had his official visit pretty much all today. It will continue likely into tomorrow morning, and then he will head back out west, for my information, from my understanding. From everything I've heard, the visit has gone tremendously well. Again, haven't gotten major details on this, but it sounds like it's gone really, really well. Not so much so where it's like 100% done, wrap it up, put the bow on it, put it under the Christmas tree type stuff. But Georgia is very much so pushing to get this one done and get it done quickly so they don't have to compete with any other fielding offers. They don't have to worry about maybe Mississippi State promising things that they can in terms of playing time, or whether they have to worry about I can't remember the other school, maybe Auburn being in the mix here, obviously, with their both budget and need at the position. So that kind of thing. But from my understanding, Auburn doesn't feel like the roster is a quarterback away. So they don't feel like they need to leverage anything for the quarterback. They're worried about building the rest of the foundation before they add anything on top of the tree. So that's kind of what's going on there. So I think Georgia is, kind of pushing things in here and trying to get this one done and wrapped up, although it doesn't sound like it's 100% done, but it sounds like, we were prepared for it, right? That's kind of my line for it. Whether or not, we're putting sliding scale majiggies in, or we're putting RPMs in, or we're putting crystal balls in, whatever. The moment I'm told, hey, might want to get prepared for this, I feel it's worthy of bringing it to the audience. So that's kind of where we're at right now after what seems to be about, 20, 24 hours into this official visit with Rashada.
So, I mean, I only knew of Georgia being in the mix. I didn't even know of any other schools potentially being in the mix for this one. But do you think that this more, like for that case, like Georgia was immediately linked to him, he immediately gets on campus and whatnot. Do you think that has to do with, again, like we've kind of talked about this a little bit on the show, of the fact that people just don't have the funds for a quarterback like Rashada right now, and Georgia has the opportunity, a need for it, and the opportunity to go out and get him? Do you think that that's what's also playing a big role in it?
We'll put my tinfoil hat on right now. You ready?
I love it.
So if I were a football team that was trying to make sure there would never, ever be any types of allegations of tampering, ever, my first rule of action would be to make sure that football player goes elsewhere or talks about going elsewhere in this process, right? Jaden Rashada being linked to Mississippi State and Auburn, or even goes and sees him or talks to him or hears from him, whatever, might alleviate some type of, that happened, right? I don't remember who it was, but A.D. Mitchell was linked to USC, I think it was, for a brief moment, like there at Texas, right? It was Texas is a lock. Texas is a lock. Before he even got in the portal, Texas is a lock. And everybody's like, yo, this is some crazy ass tampering going on right now in college football. And then it was like, you know what? USC might have a chance. USC never had a chance. Texas was telling people USC had a chance to kind of avoid any type of major tampering allegations, which, by the way, apparently the NCAA is investigating these things. I saw someone, a very, very small school, get slapped with some tampering, kind of like, don't do that. Just maybe it was like testing the water, making a guinea pig type shit with the NCAA. But, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying.
Interesting.
I mean, it makes sense to kind of do that, but it's also like, does that really help? Like, everyone knows what Texas was doing.
Cover it up, baby. That's all I'm saying. Just cover some tracks.
Are you covering it up for the public, or are you covering it up for the NCAA if they ever come knocking on your door? Be like, no, look, he visited with Auburn.
Clearly couldn't be tampering. I mean, he had a top 3 edit he gave Hayes Fawcett at other schools that had contacted him. It could be us.
Even though he was linked to Georgia 10 minutes after, not even entering the portal.
Hey, don't worry about that, baby. He saw Auburn after us.
I guess.
Hey, don't worry about it, dog. He took a trip to Mississippi State on his way out. Now, he didn't even see Jeff Lebby, and he was only there for 20 minutes to get some barbecue, but that's none the wiser. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how easily you could actually cover up this tampering stuff, or you could just be like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Which some schools are just going with that.
All right. Makes sense.
That it doesn't matter.
Yeah. What about this other portal entry that Georgia's being linked to? This running back? I think a lot of people were a little confused by this one, me, myself included.
Me too.
What's his name?
Y'all see what's going on here?
Penny Boone?
Bro, it took me 3 searches on Twitter to find out that the agent was tagged in half of these announcements. The agent's tagged in half of these announcements.
It makes sense. It's just like, again,
it's a leverage play.
Of course it is, but again,
it's a leverage play using the Georgia logo. I've never heard this kid's name.
But so like
this kid was at a MAC team last year, transferred to Louisville, couldn't get playing time. He's not back in the portal.
My question though is, if it's what are you leveraging? Because it's just Kentucky and Georgia on the graphic.
I guess the agent is hoping that Kentucky doesn't pick the phone up and call Georgia and say, "Hey, are you in on this kid?"
Again, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that seems like such a outrageous thing to say. Like, the Louisville running back that got beat out is all of a sudden going to go to Georgia, where they have 2 really, really good stars. And oh, by the way, they just took another SEC starter in the offseason. Like, you're trying to convince me that he might go to that
and
school.
They lost one because they couldn't get enough snaps.
In high school recruiting, fake offers are a major thing. Fake offers are huge. Guys will lie about, so-and-so offered me. And the whole game plan is hoping that if you hear that Kentucky offered you and it's a fake offer, but no one can really verify it, because who's going to call Kentucky and be like, did y'all really offer that kid? They're really hoping that if Kentucky offers that, Central Michigan will come through and be like, oh, here's a real offer, right? Or, Memphis will come through and be like, here's a real offer via a fake offer. I think the fake offer in the transfer portal is the fake communication. Cormani McClain is a prime example of this.
Yeah.
Cormani McClain was like, I heard from every Power 5 SEC school in the country. 12 hours later, it was like, he probably going to end up at UCF, Memphis, or USF. But Georgia called. You know what I mean? But Georgia called. That kind of thing. So I think the idea that so-and-so's in the running, again, never heard the name. Never heard the name.
I hadn't either. That's what I was like, what the heck? This is
not even when he was in the portal in December.
Mm-hmm.
When they kind of, in December the bodies were thin.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they were actively seeking a body, and his name never came up.
So this is a guy that was a December transfer portal entry.
Transferred out of the MAC. I don't know where he played last year, but he was in the Mid-Atlantic Conference.
Okay, gotcha.
So is this something that you're going to have to deal with from here on out? And is it going to become like this? I feel like this is an obvious situation. Like Cormani McClain also is like, you probably weren't getting contacted by Kirby Smart in Georgia when Deion Sanders told you to take a hike. But is there necessarily certain players where it's like might be a thing like, hey, he might actually have an offer here. This might be legit.
This is where you have to, as an insider, you have to actually have sourcing and like find out the real on these things. But as a viewer, I would just take a temperature gauge on the reporting on this every once in a while. Like there's been a couple guys that falsely reported transfer portal entries. There's been guys that, came out here and ran with all the contact stuff that we're talking about. I would just, be on the lookout for people who might be embellishing, or people who might be one-siding things, or people who are obviously talking to agents. That's one thing that like college football fans and college football content absorbers never had to worry about, whether or not Adam Schefter's in bed with somebody, or whether or not so-and-so's got leaks in their building or whatever. But nowadays you're going to have like agents kind of controlling narratives, right? They're going to be sending the information to the, let's call them who they are. There's like two names right now that are battling in this whole transfer portal free agency market. It's Matt Zenitz at 24/7, and it's Pete Nakos on 3, and then Hayes Fawcett handles the edits. But it's really those two guys kind of gauging interest and trying to not necessarily steer narratives, but release the information on these landing places every single time. And they're rushing to the beat of like who's in the portal and who's not. Those are that's where we're going. And those people, I guarantee you, are talking to these people who are representing college football players, because now we've gotten to the world into the world where, guys, there's 2,000 college football players that are drawing some type of check, or there's 1,500 college football players that are drawing some type of check, whether that check be $70,000 or whether that check be $1.5 million at the quarterback position. Nonetheless, there's 5% of fees in contracting and agencies that are there to be had. And I guarantee you people are swooping in on them. So all of this stuff is leverage play. Information is very, very valuable in terms of steering the narratives out there. Crazy we're here.
Yeah, it is. And fake offers and stuff like that. That was something I didn't know about until last year. Yeah. I remember that there was a player last year that said he got a Georgia offer. It's like, and then it was like, that's fake, by the way. So no need for that one. But you wanted to ask about headlines for the NFL draft, though. We'll go ahead and transition into this one. We do a whole. We love doing this one. We love doing that. What's the headline going to be the day after first round? Georgia's got several. What?
Before we go into that, can I ask Brooks one more question?
Come on.
So, can Georgia just come out and be like, "No, we're not. We're not talking to this kid"? And if so, is there any repercussions for the kid doing that?
They would never say that publicly. They would just tell people like me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
There's no need for them to go public with something like that.
No, it's the funny thing is like when I go on this trip, there will be kids that tell me that they have Georgia interest. And I'm like, well, buddy, I got, no,
they don't.
It's our job. And that's why it's very, in the college report, the college fan perspective in terms of absorbing content, it is so paramount that you find a local reporter or a local intel guy that knows what they're talking about and is consistently accurate. Like, because otherwise you're going to get an outside narrative from people who don't really know all the ins and outs of your building. So, it's your job as the local beat reporter to educate your audience and your followers on this is the real, this is what's happening, this is what the board looks like, and that's your job as an insider. And I'm gonna tell you right now, at Georgia, it's really, really hard to do. But that's why the people who have managed to do it, they've been here a long time. You know what I mean? So.
Any more questions?
That's how you control that.
I'm sorry. I shot down your segment.
You're good. He's also right. We did need to drag the segment. So go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. My bad.
No, man. Hey, look, we are steering not a new boat. We got new captains steering the boat tonight, and y'all are taking shifts on and off. So there's to be some growing pains here.
But yeah, Friday morning's headlines. We love predicting future headlines, and with the NFL draft being on Thursday, got quite a few Bulldogs in the mix for being first-round draft picks. So what will the headline be on Friday morning after however many Georgia Bulldogs get drafted in the first round? I have mine.
Go ahead.
It's not much of a lengthy headline, but it's short, sweet, to the point. 3's a streak. 3's a streak of having top 10 draft picks. They had one with Trayvon Walker last year. They had one with
Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter was the top 10 draft pick, and then this year, 9th overall. And then this year, I think Brock Bowers is going to be a top 10 draft pick. I think he's going to be slide in right there at number 10 with the New York Jets, and it's going to be 3. The real question is, do you think that extends to next year?
I'll piggyback off of your headline of 3's a streak and say this is the third straight year they have 3 guys selected in the first round, or at least 3 guys selected in the first round.
You're a Ladd in first round.
I think Ladd's a first round selection at this point.
I had the same headline or same talking point. And I think it comes down to what we were talking about last night. There are not 32 first round draft picks every year. You know, there just aren't. And you get to the end of these rounds in the first round, and you kind of want a really good player, you know? And Ladd McConkey is a really good player. I do think, like, if Buffalo sticks at 28, that's a really, really solid landing spot for Ladd.
Yeah, or Kansas City. My thought is Kansas City at 32, like one of those two. But things such as that, I think that Georgia's going to, once again, flex their muscle in the first round.
Kansas City missed really, really bad on Sky Moore a couple years ago.
Yeah.
You know, this is a guaranteed Sky Moore projection, what they thought he was going to be.
Kansas City hasn't really exactly nailed a lot of their even pickups in the free agency or whatnot at the wide receiver position since Tyreek Hill left. So it's been a tough go at them. So I think that it would be, if he is there, I think that you could view Ladd as just like a nice, safe first-round pick of the 32nd overall pick. We think that he's going to be able to do a lot of things in our offense. Obviously, they get super creative, and I think that you could plug and play Ladd in a lot of different spots, and plus it helps having Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback.
Look, I don't think it will happen, but there's a possibility it could. What if the Jets don't take Brock at 10, or if he falls outside the top 10? Is there a possibility that he kind of has a fall? And look, I don't think he makes it past like 6. I think it's 16 with the Saints.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way that they, will walk past that one.
I would be shocked if that happens, but it'll be because of the tight ends previously before him. Like Kyle Pitts hasn't really panned out. There's been a couple of guys that you took him in the first round, and it's kind of like, eh. Like, I think the most successful recent first-round pick at tight end is T.J. Hawkinson.
Sam Laporta.
Was he a first
rounder?
Was he a first-round pick?
I thought he was.
The T.J. Hawkinson thing took a couple years to even develop into.
Mm-hmm. Could have swore he was. Dalton Kincaid had a solid year with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything tremendous, but it was at least like.
But I we've talked about this here. I think people need to get out of this, especially now, moving forward throughout the way college football looks and the way the NFL is moving. Sometimes guys will come into the league and you don't need to label them a position. Sometimes you just need to say, well, that guy's a threat, or that guy's a mismatch, or that guy has the ability to do a variety of things, particularly on the offensive side of the football. I think on the defensive side of the football, if you can't play one, you can't play any. I think our man Isaiah Simmons was a tremendous example of this. Like, Isaiah Simmons was one of the greatest college football athletes I've ever seen on the defensive side of the football. But they still cannot find one position for him to play on Sunday, so he doesn't really have a position on Sundays. Offensively, though, if you're Brock Bowers, and I can put you at running back, I can put you at H-back, I can put you at Y, I can put you out in the slot, I can put you out on the outside in the red zone. Like, you now become a real problem defensively. You now become a guy that the opposition has to game plan for every single week. They're like sitting down going, well, not only do I have to now study like where he's at, then I have to worry about how to defend him. First, where is he at? I got to spend like 2 days figuring out where they put him all the time. Then I got to figure out a day, well, here's our game plan on how to stop him. Then I got to figure out a day on how to implement all of this stuff. Like, it becomes a much bigger mismatch, a much bigger problem. And I think tying him to the tight end position is a very ignorant's the wrong word, it's too strong. It's a very narrow-sided way of viewing a football player who's 6'5", 238 pounds on his playing days, or in his playing weight, not his combine weight at 247. I'm talking about when he's playing at 238, running 4.53 and breaking 22 mile an hour on the GPS. Like, that dude is not a tight end.
No.
That dude is a top 10 football player in this draft. You should draft him thusly, and don't worry about what his position next to his name says.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the way that 90% of NFL organizations are going to view him, and especially those within like that 6 to 11 range. I do think there's a possibility that there is some teams out there that look at him and go, hey, you know, we've seen a lot of success with late round tight ends. We don't like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, all these other guys. We don't really need to take a first round tight end right now. It's not dire to our offense. Like, the reality is, like, you can survive on offense with mediocre tight end play. You can't do that as much with wide receiver and quarterback play. Like, those obviously come first in priority. So I feel like that would be why he slips, although I don't think it happens.
I will say, though, the teams that have these elite tight ends and have really good tight ends, they all win football games.
Agreed.
Yeah, they do.
Sam Laporta with the Lions, obviously Travis Kelce with the Kansas City Chiefs, George Kittle with the 49ers, Mark Andrews with the Baltimore Ravens. Like, if you have a really good tight end, right now, history says that you're going to win football games. You're going to be a really successful offense, and you're going to get a lot of productivity out of that player. So I think that just enhances your decisions of, like, if you are the New York Jets, you have Aaron Rodgers right now. History says if you take a Brock Bowers, and you're going to win football games. So I think that only creates more of a need for Brock Bowers.
And, like, look, dude, if you're the Jets, your timetable's 12 months anyways. Like, Salah's out here getting in shouting matches at the owner's meeting with his damn boss, his owner. You know what I mean? Like, you got a very short window. You might want to push all your chips in anyway.
Oh, yeah. By the way, Aaron Rodgers isn't getting any younger.
No, at all.
And he's coming off an Achilles injury. I mean, geez.
Hey, but he was walking and throwing within like 14 days. So
supposedly,
he was on a bunch of podcasts. I know we did some stuff earlier. He admitted he was effing with everybody. The new way that they do Achilles surgery is they want you up and on it as fast as possible. So, like, your grandma could pop her Achilles tomorrow and she'd be up in a brace walking around in 7 days, having the news outlets freaking out as long as she could throw a football, So there's that. But where are we at?
Do you have any more headlines you're going?
Oh, yeah. Do y'all have any? Because I still need some thinking time here.
Mine was just going back to Brock Bowers. He's definitely
we did the lad. Where do we think Amarius goes? Because I heard a really smart NFL draft analyst that I trust say that there's the over/under on tackles drafted right now in the NFL draft community is 9.5
in the first round.
And he's
Holy
like
the first
shit.
round.
8 or 9 right now.
Yeah, Amarius is like 7, 8, 9, depending on who you are or what you like.
Jeez.
I mean, that's more than a third of the draft.
And, well, the reason being,
almost a third.
The reason being is because it's super deep at the top. After that, major drop off. I would honestly say very similar thing about the tight end position. It's like our guy from Penn State. What's his name? Theo?
I can't remember.
Oh, I have no clue.
Theo is his first name. I forget his last name. Will you look that up for me?
Yeah.
But anyways, it's those two guys at the top. It's Brock and then a slight drop off, the Theo kid from Penn State. And then right after that, it's a massive drop off to the rest of the tight ends.
Theo Johnson.
The only reason I know that is because Georgia at one point, listen to this. I have a picture of the three of them coming down the stairs at a visit in Athens. At one point, it looked like Todd Hartley was going to sign Theo Johnson, Darnell Washington, and Brock Bowers in the same class.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you would have.
Or in back-to-back classes, get Darnell and then take Theo and Brock.
You say that, but they've attained all of their tight ends consistently over the years.
There was a brief moment where it would no shit look like it was about to happen.
Golly.
So that would have been an insane tight end room. Not that it needed to get any crazier out there, but nonetheless, the Ladd McConkey storyline is going to be an interesting one towards the back end of that draft. Don't think Kamari quite has a chance to sneak in here.
No, it sounds like
it's going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken, 8, 9, maybe 10 tackles taken, 5, 6, maybe 7 wide receivers taken. Okay, there is a strong chance that the first 7 or 8 picks for the first time in the NFL Super Bowl draft era all are on the offensive side of the football.
I have a theory on this, and this is a little off topic, but I feel like in the NFL draft process, traits rise and abilities fall. Like if you're a solid football player and you're one of the more heady players and you have all the ability in the world to play the game, you're not going to test well, you're not going to run fast in the 40, you're likely going to slide. Whereas you might not have all the abilities, you might not be the most heady player, you might not have a full grasp on the systems you're running, but you have a fast 40, you have long arms, things such as that. Those players always seem to rise to me. Does that seem like the case to you?
I would say
the metrics testers.
Yeah.
I think honestly.
And do you think that's a smart way to go about things?
No, and that's what I was about to get into. I tried to have this conversation with an NFL scout the other day, and he kind of brushed me off, told me he wasn't going to give me any industry secrets, and I totally understand that. NFL scouts are some of the more private individuals I've ever met in my life. But I was having this discussion, it's like, what is your metric of true speed? And he said, my stopwatch. And I was like, surely in 2024, linear speed cannot be your metric of true game speed. No. Like, for Christ's sakes, every Power 5 football team since 2014, every big school has had catapults. Okay, since Jimbo Fisher brought it to college football, everybody has been obsessed with GPS data tracking. Everybody. So, like, I can't overstate. If I want to know how fast Brock Bowers is, and I'm in the position to draft him, and I've done good by the University of Georgia like every NFL team normally does, then all I have to do is walk into Kirby's office and say, hey, you mind if I take a peek at your catapult data for Brock Bowers for the last 3 years because you've had him strapped with a GPS every time he's walked in the building?
Sports brawl.
I mean, yeah, it's every time. It's how they knew he was who he was. Right? You listen to Todd Monken's first interview during bowl season in 2020. He starts talking about how the moment I saw, 2021, the moment I saw his GPS metrics and offseason workouts, I knew what we had. I knew we had to start revamping our offense and designing plays to get him the ball in his hands after the catch. If I need to know true speed, the last thing I'm doing nowadays is going, oh shit, he's fast. No, that's the last thing I'm doing. And the idea that I gotta see it and I gotta have it, to me, that's a little bit crazy.
I think that one of the reasons why the metrics or the metrics continue to rise more so than the traits of what you're talking about is I think it also has to do with just recency bias. Like that's what is fresh on everybody's mind because you go through an entire college football season and once immediately that season ends, it's like, well, who had the best season this last year? Who put up the best numbers this last year? And then you also have Senior Bowl. Like who's out there putting on good tape at the Senior Bowl? Who's showing out on the football field there? And then you kind of hit this lull where nobody's playing and nobody's really doing anything. Maybe you have a couple pro days and then you go to the NFL Combine and pro days really start ramping up and it's, okay, well, he measured in here. He tested this in the 40-yard dash. He did this in the shuttle. And then all of a sudden, like that's what's at the top of your mind. And all of a sudden, film, what you've already probably looked at during the month of February is kind of falling back down to the bottom. And that's just kind of what everybody feeds off of and remembers the most.
I've always said, and if it were my process, and this is the process for me as an evaluator, I'm always film first, and well, obviously it's in-person evaluation first, and then film second. And then after that, I use all data metrics and all the testing as confirmation tools or reassessment indicators, right? Where, okay, I'm watching tape on Tyke Smith, and for 3 years, well, for 2.5 years, right, I feel like, all right, a little limited on the top end speed. Like if I were ever to try to attack him, I'd take him vertically with a good slot receiver that's got some top end. You saw some teams try that, but on tape, that was the only limitation I ever found. And then he goes to the combine and he runs 4.47. Well, that is an indicator that you need to reassess what your eyes were telling you on tape because maybe he was playing smoother. Maybe it's an Ichiro Suzuki situation where that guy's really moving. He just looks like he ain't trying very hard, right? That might be the situation with those on tape where game speed may look a little slower, but maybe he's just an efficient mover on tape, so he doesn't look like he's as twitchy and explosive. These things happen. It's why, the metrics have always been a reassessment for me. I think that guy's slower. I think that guy's fast. He runs slow or he runs fast, opposite of my film indicator or my in-person evaluation indicator. The last thing I would do as an evaluator is walk into a situation and go, give me the RAS score. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, no, it is a balance of all. And ideally, you find a prospect that both matches the tape and the physical pedigree required to be successful.
Would Carson Beck match his physical pedigree?
Yeah, I think Carson Beck's going to go run like 4.81. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be 6'5", 225, run 4.81. Everybody's going to be like, box check. Like, these dudes nowadays, guys, even when they look like quote-unquote pocket pass, these are good athletes. They're all good athletes, right? And Kirby talks about his baseball background all the time, former shortstop, pitcher, all that good stuff. Bro, this dude's a hooper. Like, this dude played AAU hoops until he's like 14, 15 years old. Like, we'll go up in the rack and like play pickup games with the other football players, and like is a high draft pick and can yam. Like, this is a good athlete, guys.
So if he's first round draft pick, that would be Georgia having potentially the first overall pick for quarterback, and if Charlie Connon goes, it'd be quarterback or football, baseball, and basketball at this point.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
very recent memory.
Speaking of basketball, did you see Ant got a new shoe deal?
Yeah, dude, that was sick. And is this his first shoe or his second shoe?
No, so this is he's already created this line. It's the AE1 shoe line that he has with Adidas.
Listen to our sneaker, our hoop head over.
Dude, you know what? I just now found out today that SI Fan Nation has a Kicks website. Like, people just write about shoes. Didn't know about that, but yeah.
Were you about to update me with a side gig? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not writing about shoes. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, so it's just his shoe line. It's just another colorway that he's coming out with it. And I don't know if it's actually labeled the Georgia Bulldogs colorway or not, but it definitely feels like it's a Georgia Bulldogs like recognition of like, this is where I was for 1 year. And you know, I think that's pretty significant because in basketball, since it's just one and dones, these superstars, especially because this season got cut short in COVID, like may not feel a whole lot of attachment to your program because you're only there for 1 year. Kind of feels like maybe it was a stepping stone. Like, I'll go to Georgia. I'm from Georgia. I'll go try and be the superstar, which he was, and then get on out of here, go to the NBA, make a whole bunch of money, become the next superstar, which he is. But I think it's pretty cool and pretty significant for the basketball program that you have someone like Anthony Edwards paying recognition to that program.
Now, this school I'm about to reference has a tremendous amount more success in the basketball realm than Georgia, but it is very akin to the way Kevin Durant treats Texas. Mm-hmm. Like, he was there 8 months, but always comes back, it seems. I think he has some names on some buildings out there, like things he's donated to the basketball program. So it's one of those situations where, you know, and that happens to be both those guys' home states. I think that plays a major role here where, you know, Ant grew up in DeKalb County and then played high school here in Atlanta and, you know, stayed in college basketball here in Athens and was like, all right, I love the state of Georgia. I'm going to play here a year. My question, and I think the question for Georgia fans moving forward is like, and it's always going to be, is like, kind of sucks you didn't get enough out of it.
No.
Yeah.
You definitely didn't maximize that. I would have liked to have seen Ant like play on this year's team. Mm-hmm. You know, this year's team, at least until things look dim and look like they didn't really have a shot, I feel like this team's under Mike White for like the first 20 games played really clean, like high effort basketball.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And I could not say that about the Tom Crean regime.
Oh, gosh, no. I mean, the roster that Tom Crean had the year Anthony Edwards was there was not a bad roster at all. I mean, Tumani Kamara is an NBA player. He is a bench player in the NBA. That is a significant player that you should have gotten more out of with Anthony Edwards. Severe Wheeler, that was kind of an up-and-down career.
On that team? Was that the year before?
Hammonds, what's his first name? Rashad Hammonds. That's who I'm thinking of. That was another guy that, I mean, you had the roster and you should have been able to get a whole lot of more productivity out of that. And Katie Johnson was on that roster, which he just needs to hang it up at this point. He's going to George Mason now. But you had the roster at that point. Should have gotten more out of it. But this next year's roster, I think there's 7 open scholarships now with how the transfer portal is going up. But you get Asa Newell. You're kind of firing after some more transfer guys. You got one from Deshane Montgomery out of the Mount St. Mary's. That's a really good guard that you're going to add to the roster. You kept Blue Kane and why am I blanking on his name right now? Silas Demery. Mm-hmm. Like, you're piecing together a good roster, building off of momentum what you did last year. That's the most important thing.
So the question that seeing Anthony Evans' shoe line kind of inspired me is, who are some Georgia football players that you think would have had a sick like
would have had or like will have like could have.
would have, or you could do will or would have, but I'm thinking just like players that you would have liked to have seen have maybe a shoe line or some sort of brand line.
Something from Noshawn.
Ooh, Noshawn's a good pool.
Noshawn would have made $1 million off figurines of that play.
Oh yeah.
You know, against Central Michigan. By
Shirts.
the way, even to this day, I mean, that happened in the internet era. Super hard to find a real clean photo of that. You notice it's not on the wall. It's not on the wall anywhere because you can't find a high-res photo of that play.
The Central Michigan play?
Yeah. I don't think you can.
There's one.
There's one, and it's not out for the internet. It's probably taken by Rob Sade. He's probably making some money selling prints up. You know what I mean? Like that one's off the market from what I remember doing research on the wall, the mural here. So yeah, maybe like that. And like the chat's saying right now, Noshawn in college had some of the most elite swag like you'd ever see.
Yeah.
The on-field drip was just insane. So yeah, that one for me.
I didn't dig that far deep. I didn't even think about doing something like Noshawn.
In that black 2-4 dog.
I just went ahead and did an obvious one. I don't know how widespread this merch would be, but it would at least be a good talking point, at least be pretty fun. George Pickens, whatever the heck he would come up with, it would just be fun to see. I don't even know. That dude's got
Boxing
some...
gloves.
No, he would go, you know how kids are like, kids, me too, as well, are wearing like retro concert tees? He would have retro concert tees of his best moments where he's like diving in against the Arkansas Razorbacks on the road, like that photo, him squirting the water bottle against the
So
Tennessee
tough.
player Gorentano, him slamming the dude into the bricks. Like he would basically call 7-6 apparel and try to violate any copyright laws that they possibly could, getting some George Pickens merch off the ground.
The one of him slamming the Georgia Tech player into a brick wall would have done stupid numbers. Stupid numbers. That would still be probably the hottest sale t-shirt on anybody's website right now.
So I listed off a bunch actually.
I mean, there was a guy that had his name, image, and likeness just stolen for hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merch.
What?
And he played a very unimportant position. Dude, Specs, Rodrigo Blankenship.
That's literally
Blankenship is like, he is destroying without a YouTube page.
You literally took it right out of my mouth. I was about to say Rodrigo Blankenship needed like some kind of goggle line.
Bro, no, Rodrigo Blankenship should be the face of the NCAA lawsuit that Sam House is in the front of. Like, Rodrigo Blankenship had hundreds of thousands of dollars name, image, and likeness stolen off of him.
Just off that one Quavo picture.
Off that one Quavo picture and that the photo of the mustache and the specs. Like, that one's everywhere. Everyone had that one. Like, Rodrigo lost so much money not being able to actually capitalize on that kind of stuff. Here's one that I think is kind of slept on, but makes perfect sense. Jordan Davis having a Swedish fish line would be elite.
Like a super jumbo size Swedish fish. They
like
kind
a
of
Jordan
have those,
Davis
like
guy
even
Swedish
big
fish.
Jumbo.
Oh yeah, you could get like on Easter time or one of these, massive candy holidays,
yes,
like Halloween,
exactly.
where you could get a Jordan Davis sized Swedish fish.
Oh my gosh.
That would be insane,
Holy
dude.
cow.
Can you imagine?
That would be awesome.
That would be massive.
Can you imagine opening your bag and someone drops a Jordan Davis sized Swedish fish in it?
They bring out like a moving truck and it's like beep, beep, beep.
It looked like when people like pin up the sharks after they catch them and it's hanging on the dock. That's what that thing would look like if you were bringing that sucker in. That'd be absolutely
A
ridiculous.
Jordan Davis sized Swedish fish. Or
How long would that take you to eat?
You wouldn't. I mean, eventually it's just going to
get diabetes.
I'm taking that down in like a month.
You think that thing's going to be good and fresh for a month?
Hypothetically,
we have a humidor, that's stuck at 72 degrees, and I can just go in there, every hour on the hour and take a big old chunk out of Jordan Davis Swedish fish.
Imagine someone coming to your house like, "Oh, what's in there? Oh, don't worry about it. Just my
Don't go in
there.
Just my Jordan Davis sized Swedish fish, bro. Don't worry about it."
Would you eat it? Yeah, you'd have to start top down, right?
I don't think it matters.
Get a ladder.
You have to go bottom up.
No, because it'd fall on you.
Well,
It's a Jordan Davis sized Swedish fish.
Are you like hanging it on the ceiling?
No, you're
just propping it?
Yeah, you just plop it right there, all 340 pounds of it, and then you get a step ladder and you start from the top and you work your way down.
I think what you'd have to do is like lay it on the ground like they did the Pop-Tart in the Pop-Tart bowl.
Yeah.
You just have to slowly pick apart.
I think you should also maybe like cut half of it off or cut a large portion of it off, or maybe start with a small portion of it off. Maybe try to melt it, get it soluble, and see if you can drink it. Maybe just for efficiency basis, right?
Interesting.
But again, I wouldn't start
viscosity,
with a
that would be
large
crazy.
portion of that. I would start with like maybe a hand and say, let's see if Jordan Davis' Swedish fish hand will become soluble so we can drink it. What a show.
Man, the one topic that we're milking the most. I love it. I went 2 recent players that I went with, and I feel like I just feel like Anthony Evans. He's got some drip to himself. I mean, I feel like he could come up with some cool things. I think there would be some fun things there. And then it's going to take 4 games for this to happen, for him to be able to capitalize off of it. Colby Young's going to moss somebody, and then that's going to be your T-shirt of the year. I mean, it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. So he would also be one of my picks.
David Pollock would have just absolutely cleaned house in NIL money back in the day.
For sure.
And just would have absolutely mowed.
Todd Gurley,
Yeah.
AJ Green.
What would have been
kind of did and got in trouble for
Yeah, I was
it.
about to say, I was about to make the joke, but you did.
What would have been the bigger sale back in the 80s? Would it have been Herschel Walker trucking the Tennessee defender, or would it have been the Lindsey Scott touchdown?
Oh, Herschel.
Oh, that's a good
And
question.
is there good
Or-
photos of the Lindsey one?
Or does Larry Munson himself just dominate the merch line?
Oh, yeah. That's probably true.
Larry
Is
Munson,
Larry the
no.
only face of a college football team that was the voice of one?
Alabama had one.
The,
I thought.
the
But he
Auburn-
was never like this. Like people even
No, I
outside
mean, there
of
is-
Georgia's fan base know about Larry Munson.
There is no one comparable to Larry Munson. The Auburn guy, I forget his name.
That passed away recently.
Yeah, who called the
he
kick
was-
six.
yeah.
He was big.
Oh my God, Davis is going to take it all the way back to the house.
That's actually a pretty good impression.
Yeah, I know. I've worked.
I was about to say, how many times do you practice that one?
I've listened to that one.
All right, can we please watch this film?
Yes, let's do it.
Ooh.
All right, tell me about this, Kirby. Tell me about this, Kirby. I just unmuted my mic. Tell me about this, Kirby. So you're the one that put us on this one, right?
Yeah, so today I was looking for players to evaluate.
Yeah.
And I want to give you my eval on this first.
Okay.
Before I his name's Ty Jackson. He's
Ty
class of
Jackson.
2025. He's listed at 6 foot, 200 pounds, so he's a little undersized.
DB?
Linebacker.
Oh,
Plays Mike.
okay.
So my analysis of this guy is that he's a little slow to react. His play recognition might not quite be there yet,
Must have juice.
but my God, is he impressive down. He plays wide receiver too, and he returns kicks.
And linebacker.
He has 10 touchdowns.
He's a linebacker.
Where's he go to school?
He goes to school at Seminole Ridge in, you pronounce that, Jay Will.
I can't read it.
Is it Florida?
Loxahatchee, Florida.
Loxahatchee. So I want you to watch this film and tell me what you think of it.
All right, let's do it. All right. One more name. One more. Ty Evans.
Ty Jackson.
Ty Jackson. Here we go. Oh, he's opening up already. He's reading. Oh, my Lord. Okay. Okay.
Just wait.
Okay. We got something here. We got to hit the power stance. Oh, my God. Holy shit. Who's he playing?
I don't know. I mean, they're playing on grass fields. You know they're in the trenches.
What happened here?
Oh, strip.
Oh, he was in the box. Okay. I was looking at this dipshit out here.
Sheds one, just rip the ball
Rips
away.
the ball out and
And
just takes it
scores?
to the crib.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's some cold-blooded shit right there.
Just wait. It keeps getting better, dude.
Jay Will, while we're here, check some. Is there available track times here?
I was looking
have
for
any?
them. I couldn't find any.
Then probably not. If you need a track and field, net,
Here's a good open
oh
field.
my Lord, oh my Lord, what bang! All right. What schools are heavily in the mix here, Kirk? Because this is an undersized guy.
Florida State, Penn State, Tennessee, Georgia, and Baylor are the big offers, I believe.
Okay. Oh my God! What was that? A quarterback sneak? How did that guy get to the second level that fast?
Watch how he gets in the backfield this next
It
play.
was indeed a quarterback sneak, and he murdered that child.
This is one of my favorite ones.
This is a minute into a 9-minuter. Oh my Lord! Some Troy Polamalu shit.
Did you read off his official visits?
No, I haven't read off of it.
Back in February,
Watch this one.
Oh,
apparently he has official visits set for Penn State, Georgia, Florida State, and Tennessee.
I feel that, bro. I feel that. Oh Lord! One more time on the OVs.
It's Florida State, Georgia, Tennessee, and Penn State.
Huh.
Bro, you got to stay in the South here, dog. Don't take your ass up to Big Ten country. You need to be around speed, brother. Okay? You want to go play Big Ten football, be 6'3", 240. All right? You want to play SEC football, run 4.6. Okay? This is a guy who's running sub 4.6.
If you go to around the 4-minute mark, you'll see his. He's an athlete.
So you said he's 6 foot 205? Is that what I heard?
He's listed at 6 foot 200. Yeah, here's him returning kicks.
Man, that's tough.
Oh, wait. He does have track times.
What are they?
100-meter dash, 11.36. 110-meter hurdles, 14.37. 200-meter dash, 22.17.
Look, man, the tape is mad explosive. And this is a guy who's going to go... I mean, Georgia, this is just outside the Georgia profile.
Right.
You told me 11.3 and you heard me.
Yeah.
Like that. It's. I don't think.
Guys, Chris Cole is 6'3", 220 pounds and ran 10.7 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a different breed of animal going on out there.
I don't think it's a Georgia take per se.
But the tape is
tape. But the tape was...
We felt this way about Jaden Harmon, too, out of Rome. Yeah. Jaden Harmon's tape, and I told Jaden that. He just committed to Alabama. I was like, bro, your tape is absurd. And I think Georgia's... I don't know exactly their hesitancy there, but there has to be some. And I think with him, it might have been overall length. I think they told him his arm length might be a major issue there, which, hey, look, man, those linebackers got to be able to stack and shed at Georgia, so you better be able to have some arm length and speed.
Do me a favor and skip to the 4:30 mark, I believe.
He's cribbing this. Bro, he got a hedge fund, dog. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Yeah. He got a hedge fund, dog. Get out of here. That might be my number one way of saying Timmy's not very good at football so far. I've had a lot of good ones. Where are we at? 4-minute mark, you said? We're right at
30.
Okay, we can watch a couple more. We're in no hurry tonight. Oh, some natural hands. I like this for like a somebody who plays three backers and plays a lot of zone coverage.
Yeah.
You know who this is? This him playing wide receiver?
Yeah.
You know who this almost looks like? Vanderbilt just had a linebacker, number 1, the kid that blew his knee out.
This is the one, I believe.
Against Georgia last year. The guy had a pick on Carson. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. That's who he looks like. I missed the play.
Just a headhunter.
Sorry.
It's after this one, actually.
Oh, really? Who's he playing? Coastal Carolina?
It looks like it.
Oh, yeah. He going to get some targeting penalties. I love it.
Yeah, here we go. This is just dirty to put on your tape.
Poor kid.
Bro, watching hits like that.
I mean, that's...
So, I go over to Terrence's every Wednesday.
Yeah.
I won't be going there tomorrow because I got to go to Woodward. But I go over to Terrence's every Wednesday, and I normally have to leave really early so I can either avoid traffic or prepare to hit traffic so I'm not late, right? Because you travel 90 minutes in around Atlanta. Coming from Northeast going to the west side of Atlanta, you got to prepare to hit some traffic. But I'm way early this day, and I'm sitting out there. And you remember the Georgia Force, the Arena Football League team?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming back. Okay,
bringing Arena Football?
And I'm talking to the coach, and he, sizes me up. He's like, "What do you do? Like, do you play?" And I'm like, "Never again." Never again. And he could see it after. I was like, I did for a while, 5 years in college, and I kind of took a breath like that. And he goes, "You're not in it anymore, are you?" I'm like, "No, dude, you couldn't pay me enough." Turns out they make about $1,000 a week, so he might be able to pay me enough.
Wow,
$1,000 a week?
Yeah, but it's like 12 weeks. You practice 5 days a week, and you travel on the weekend. So it would be, my wife would be like, "No, not happening." But anyways, it piqued my interest, especially after watching them practice. Like, yeah, y'all might need me, but I'm not going to do the offensive line stuff. I'm going to go chooch it up.
Oh God!
No, I'd be fat guy quarterback. Just let it happen.
Like Jared
Ratings
Lorenzen.
would be great,
bro. I promise you, I saw what they had available. Might happen.
Go try out.
No, I'm not gonna do it. I can't. I'm done. I'm just
tapping out.
No, I'm the last concussion. Not to make it this, but the last concussion I had in college, I was like, maybe this sport's not good for you. Kind of like moment, you know? Kind of moment where I'm like, God dang, my brain feels like scrambled eggs. This is not good. So yeah, that one kind of scared me. But other than that, tremendous time playing the sport. I never went under the knife, but I did go under the lights.
Lucky.
Yeah. Same for you?
I never went under the lights, but I went under the knife.
Oh, so opposite.
Yeah, I tore my labrum.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. Tore my AC joint, neglected the surgery. Feel that one to this day. Can't sleep on my left shoulder. So there's that.
It's never too late.
Right shoulder never had any problems. It was always between my legs. You were about to transition. Go ahead.
No, yeah.
I was a center for those of you.
No, it's fine. I like this type of conversation, but the draft. So Michigan has 18 players, I want to say, this year in the draft
with eligible grades type deal.
Can't get drafted.
One of those is Trente Jones, though, and another tackle.
So that's where I was going to lead this, but there is a conversation that they could potentially break Georgia's record of 15 that they set a couple years ago. And this is how I broke it down. So they have 18 total. And so I'm just going to read off a couple names. Like Braden McGregor, who's an edge. He's projected 6th round. Trente Jones, who you mentioned, he's projected as undrafted. Ladarius Henderson projected as undrafted. Carson Barnhart, undrafted. So like basically what Michigan needs to happen for them to break Georgia's draft record is they need about 3 of those guys to become draftable or to get drafted in the 7th round. And they need to make sure that Braden McGregor actually ends up getting drafted in the 6th round because they have 13 guys that it's looking like are going to be drafted. You just need 3 more guys that are probably not going to be drafted to ended up being a 7th round pick.
That's a way deeper analysis than I had. And I just don't think that the NFL world views the Michigan roster the same way that they view Georgia rosters. Like, I think that what Georgia had in 2021 and what Georgia has now is so greatly respected by NFL scouts, NFL coaches, NFL players that...
It's pedigree, too.
Exactly.
They were great high school players, most of them coming out of Georgia. Most of these Michigan guys were great. They seem to be great college developmental stories. You know, some of them have really high pedigrees, like the Chris Jenkins kid whose dad played in the league for like 12 years. Those are really highly touted football players, but you know, like I don't recall. Maybe Mike Saren still was a highly rated recruit, but like Junior Colson, who's probably going to be their first, defensive player drafted. I don't believe him to have been a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. JJ McCarthy was,
right?
But the rest of those guys in that list of 19, most of those were like high 3 stars, low 4 stars, caliber kids coming out of high school that, played Michigan brand football.
And it's like there's a lot of super seniors in that list too. Like they're going to be fine players in the NFL, and a lot of them will probably get drafted, but they're not otherworldly talents that appears to appeal to these certain players. Like you had a lot of players in that 5th and 6th round of 2021 where it was like, hey, that's a super talented player. He might not be all the metrics we need. But we're gonna take the upside on him. I don't think there's that as much of that as Michigan.
Do you think that maybe, like, not to discredit any of the players that Georgia had drafted that year, like saying that they shouldn't have been drafted, that this was the only reason why they got drafted, but do you think
the helmet?
Not the helmet, but what Philadelphia did, like. Do you think other organizations kind of took notice of that and like, why the heck are they seeking after this program so hard in this draft class? And other programs maybe felt a little more inclined to jump after that as well?
Well, it's interesting. Like Pittsburgh prioritized Georgia offensive players. Pickens, Broderick Jones. I think they might have taken one other one, if my memory serves me correct, or maybe a defensive player. Maybe just those 2.
Darnell Washington.
That's the 3rd. So there, 3 offensive players in 2 drafts. Okay, to one team. The Eagles went defensive, right? They took a bunch of defensive players. I think the 49ers have a handful of football players on their roster. We did this segment a while back where...
Yeah, we wrote an article on it.
Yeah, I think the Green Bay Packers are a football team that has a repetitive nature of this, right? Stokes, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt.
Yep.
There you go. And it could be just as simple as... They're a good football team. Let's draft good football players. You know, like it was the very same thing for Alabama in their run. I don't think there was a connective tissue or a connective link to like this team drafts Alabama football players, even though maybe there was some, you know, distinct trends or connective points there. But with Georgia, it feels like there are a handful of teams where it's like, all right, a Georgia player is available, slide them in there in your mock draft, they'll probably take them.
Yeah, I mean, there was never a nickname, the Alabama Cardinals or the Alabama Packers. Like there's a Georgia-Delphia Eagles thing, because Eagles have consistently gone back and drafted so many players. So.
Georgia took the lead there, huh? I thought it was just the Philly Dogs.
Philly Dogs, Georgia-Delphia. Yeah. I mean, there's 5 different nicknames you can have for it.
I didn't know about the Georgia-Delphia one.
This is news to me as well.
It is news to me.
I've seen a bunch of them. Like I've seen like Philadelphia Jor Eagles or something. Like it's a bunch of dumbass nicknames.
Do you think that maybe happens for any Georgia players this year in the draft, where it's just played for a really good football team? You know what? Let's go ahead and pick them up late in the rounds.
Maybe the running backs.
Maybe.
I think the prime example of this is Lewis Seen. Lewis Seen was a highly like a 4-star recruit. Ran sub 4.45, I think. Ran like 4.42 at the NFL Combine, maybe 4.38. 6'2", 215 pounds. Comes from the University of Georgia, first-round draft pick. I think he's been banged up a little bit with Minnesota,
he snapped his ankle.
Yeah, it's been touch and go there with like the injury history, but like I didn't feel like Lewis Seen put on tape he was a first-round draft pick. I thought Lewis Seen's helmet, highlights, and testing made him a first-round draft pick. Now, a player that like, you know, I don't know of another example of like that guy got a boost at Georgia because of the helmet. Maybe some of the offensive linemen coming up might get it, where it's like, all right, that dude played X amount of starts at Georgia. I don't care what his measurements are. Like he's a high quality football player. He has to be, right? Big Ten offensive linemen get this. They get that bump. So yeah, I think eventually there's just like people draft Alabama football players because of the helmet. They will continue and start to do this and continue to do it with the Georgia helmet, no doubt.
I mean, he wasn't a high round draft pick, but I think that's kind of what happened with Justin Schaefer a little bit during that class. I mean, Jamari Sawyer was still on the board. Justin Schaefer wasn't even the best offensive lineman left out of Georgia's class, but yet the Falcons were like, well, Justin Schaefer started multiple years at Georgia. Must be a really good football player. We're going to go ahead and plug him in at guard.
Yeah, I mean, Tate Crowder's another example of that, where he's a linebacker that played one season where he started intermittently. Yeah, and they took him in the 7th round, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yep.
You know, like you mentioned Jamari Sawyer there. He obviously went in the 6th round, and a lot of people point to the fact that he's a 6'3" tackle. I think it had far more to do with the way Jamari Sawyer looks. Has nothing to do with his height. If you look at Jamari Sawyer, you would think he's carrying like 30 pounds overweight. Like offensive tackles in the NFL don't have bellies. Most of them don't. Right. A lot of them look like Lane Johnson. Most of them do not look like Jamari Sawyer. And then you turn on the tape and Jamari moves his feet like Lane does at 6'6", but he's 6'3", he doesn't have the length. But you get why he survives once you turn the tape on, but it's hard to draft those guys when you don't know, right, that the body's going to hold and translate. So I understood the Jamari slide. I didn't understand all the way to 6. I was like, it's a 3rd or 5th round draft pick, but don't be out here talking about 1st round, 2nd round grades. I will probably say a very similar thing about Ernest Green. Like Ernest Green's 6'3", he's got I'm gonna say 33-inch arms would be my guess. He's gonna weigh in at 310 pounds. He's gonna run 5'1", and everybody's gonna say he's a guard. You know what I mean? That's he's gonna get labeled that, and he's gonna have to win a job at tackle to stay out there on Sundays. But he'll get drafted as a 2nd, 3rd round interior offensive lineman projection, I would imagine, next year.
So, like, final prediction for the draft, we're thinking 6 Bulldogs get drafted?
No, I'm gonna call it 9. Let's call it 8. I think one of the running backs gets drafted. Flip a coin to see who it is. I don't think Zion gets drafted. So that would be
there's 10 eligible this year.
Yeah, it's Brock, Amarius, Ladd, Kamari, Javon, Tyke, Cedric, Rojak, one of the backs.
I said 6.
One of the backs.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go 9.
So basically, we think 8 for sure. Like those guys are going to get drafted.
No doubt.
It's going to be like it could go either way. Not really sure.
Yeah, and I think like I just rattled them off. I think that's going to be the order in which they're drafted. Bowers, Mims, McConkey, Lassiter, Bullard, Smith, Van Pran, Rojak. Flip a coin. The rest.
You think there's going to be any surprising slides after that?
No, but the way it has worked in years past is that there's like a Robert Beal. Like, what the hell? Why is he getting picked so fast? Like Robert Beal had like 2 good games, 3 good games, 4 good games at Georgia, tested out of the water, but never could really get playing time or put together a consistent pass rush plan. And it's like, boom, 3rd round draft pick. It's like, what?
Good for him, man.
I think you've mentioned this before, but you've at least mentioned the team before, but I know you've kind of mentioned in the past of like you think that specific teams need to be looking at Cedric Van Pran. Do you think that there is a team that, like, if you had to pick dream destination, this is where Ced needs to go? Like, who do you think it should be? So
this is a tremendous question for Thursday's live stream supercast, which we're going to do, by the way. A lot of people have been asking for it, so we're going to be here Thursday during the draft. When I have all of the team needs finalized and have done my research on that, that's a tremendous question to circle back on, because the center position is almost drafted with a gun to your head. It's like you have none on the roster, you have to take one. So let me find out which one of those teams is on that list, because I guarantee there's like 3 or 4 of them. I guarantee you there is 3 or 4 NFL football teams right now who have either released or have had their center signed away from their roster. I guarantee it.
Is there a world or a universe where a team drafts Ced and kind of goes like, hey, would you be interested in playing guard? Is he strictly a center?
So from my conversations with Ced, I believe they put practice tape together of him and gave playing guard and gave it to NFL scouts. So they have that. They have the ability to watch that. Again, man, like, this is why the conversations with NFL media, like as a local B reporter, someone who's tied into this program really well, when I hear the narrative around some of these guys out in the general public from national voices covering the NFL, I'm like, you obviously don't have people in this building, and I don't expect you to have them, but you didn't ask the right questions. You didn't have people to ask the right questions to be out here tweeting about how you don't have a verified number on Brock Bowers' 40. It's like, it took 30 seconds to get that one if you just asked around. But you don't have anybody to ask around. Same thing with like Ced. It's like, you ask around that building, you're going to find out really, really quickly that Cedric Van Pran Granger is an impeccable leader and has guard tape, and you can get access to it. So, yeah, there's that.
I mean, it's such a loaded question. Not even loaded, but just nitpicky. Like, is there ever a reason that you think that Georgia necessarily didn't put it on tape in game? Or is it just that the need wasn't there? Why risk injuring your starting center?
I'd probably say there wasn't a need.
Yeah, I mean, they have the last 3 years he started as center, they've had a smorgasbord of options at guard, and he was always healthy.
Yeah.
There's just no need.
Yeah.
You know, had they only had like 2 good guards, you know, and one goes down and they had a backup center, basically the antithesis of their situation during his time there, then yeah, they would put it on tape. My question would be like, I don't recall ever seeing it like in a spring game or anything. They never even tried to, like, you know, just put it on tape. But again, why would you ever do it?
Right.
You know, the last 2 years he was there, it's Tate Ratledge, it's Dylan Fairchild, it's Micah Morris. Like, buddy, we don't need you playing guard. We're good. You know?
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, this is the last question I have for you. So, sitting here a year from today, 2025 NFL draft, how many first-round picks does the Georgia Bulldogs have?
Oh, gosh.
Just off the top of your head. And obviously, this is going to change tremendously within the...
I think there's 3 locks.
Yeah.
Carson, Michael, Malachi.
Yep.
Maybe not in that particular order, but those 3 are locks.
Maybe one of the offensive linemen.
Yeah, maybe Dylan Fairchild. He's going to have a great year this year. It's not going to be tape for injury concerns and top end, just athleticism traits and stuff like that. Micah will be inconsistencies and lack of like true starting experience, I would imagine. But those guys will have draftable grades, high draftable grades, like 2 to 3.
Is Dalen Everett a guy who could possibly play into something like this?
He could test his way into
That's
this.
what I say, because
he can test his way and play his way into it. He can go from a guy who people were dogging in the Georgia fan base to maybe being like cornerback 4. And if he's cornerback 4, he's first round.
That's what I was going to say, because I mean, like, you'd have to imagine he tests better than Kamari.
Yeah.
Now you have to put the tape on that gets people to say, hey, wait a minute, that's a top 10 corner.
Yeah. You guys have seen him in person. He's so much bigger than most people realize.
Here's the thing. He looks almost lanky on TV. Like,
yeah.
Can he play Georgia defense? You walk to him in person, much more solid. It's weird.
I think it's his. This is gonna sound really stupid. I think it's the combination of his jersey, and he doesn't wear any. His arms just look really, really long.
No drip.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say no drip. It's just different drip.
You
It's
say
just not.
no,
Yeah, it's no drip.
Dude, when they brought him out for
Most corners are rocking the one sleeve nowadays.
Yeah.
when they brought him out for interviews after G-Day, now I know that they put him on a little box, so they stand up a little bit more. But I went from Jalen Walker, and then I walked over to Dalen, and I was like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, you're way bigger than I
Yeah,
thought.
I was like, golly, dude, you're freaking shadowing over everybody right now.
Yeah, going to G. That sounds fun.
Folks asking if we read the chat. We read the chat.
We do read the chat.
It's in and out. You know,
We all got it
We got a
pulled
lot
up.
going on right now.
Going to G Day sounds really fun, doesn't it?
It's a
Hey
good time.
man, we're getting there.
Hey, you went to
We're
Knoxville.
only 5 years into this business.
You could have gone.
You know what I mean?
Fall weddings.
Oof.
They suck.
All right. I'm good. We will be back Thursday. It's going to be a super competitive night. Okay. Super competitive here on this YouTube thing. Okay. So if you like the way we do it, here's how we're going to do it. Player will get drafted. We will then give you the full scouting background and development chart and track of that player. Okay. So we will watch them in high school. We will talk about their development and their growth and how their story went during college. We will assess the draft pick and then we will move on to the next one. We will rinse, cycle, and repeat. It'll be a good night to be here on the channel. Also, maybe thinking about overnighting like a gong and just bang anytime there's a trade. What do you think about that?
Trade or just a pick in general?
No, a trade.
Where do you overnight a gong from?
Amazon, dude.
Amazon's
Bezos got that
got
shit
gongs,
on
bro.
lock, cuz.
Amazon's got
What you
gongs.
talking about? I got 2 days. Amazon got that shit on lock. I can have a gong here, an 18-inch gong here in 12 hours. I guarantee it.
Let's see it.
Put it at my desk. So I want to be the one.
You
to-
won't?
Put it at your desk?
Yeah.
You won't. But anyways, we'll have something going on here Thursday. So we'll see you then. I love you. Bye. I'm so hungry, dude. I haven't eaten all